Chapter 1048, The Cranes Testify. Yun Chujio spread her hands. Then let's ask. It's just that some people shouldn't shoot themselves in the foot. What if these vermilion-beaked long-feather cranes testify that it was your nephew who did it? When the time comes, are you also going to punish your own family, or are you going to cry and beg for mercy for him? Instructor Wu was a little uncertain after he heard Yun Chujio's words. He looked at Wu Heng suspiciously and Wu Heng shouted, "Uncle, I really didn't do it. Just ask the birds." Instructor Wu then walked to the railing of the vermilion-beaked long-feather crane beast house. "Who plucked your tail feathers? Was it Yun Chujio?" Instructor Wu pointed at Yun Chujio with his finger. Yun Chujio curled her lips. "Instructor Wu, your question is misleading. However, I believe that such a noble bird like the vermilion-beaked long-feather crane will tell the truth. Do you think that I pulled out your beautiful tail feathers?" Yun Chujio looked at the vermilion-beaked long-feather cranes with a wry smile. As she asked, she touched her hair with her hand. The vermilion-beaked long-feather cranes trembled. At that moment, their hearts were in a dilemma. Of course, they wished that Yun Chujio would be punished. However, when they recalled Yun Chujio's warning, even if she were expelled, she would still have a way to get rid of their feathers. If they really lost all their feathers, they would lose the will to live. The cranes finally decided to give up. After all, their tail feathers would grow again in a few days. They should not offend that little devil. She was too evil. They only provoked her for a little and she had already plucked all their tail feathers. If they reported her, she would definitely not let them off. The cranes looked at each other and shook their heads like a rattle drum, denying that Yun Chujio was the one who plucked the tail feathers. Yun Chujio clapped her hands. "Did everyone see that? I told you I was innocent, right? How could a kind person like me pluck their tail feathers? Instructor Wu, why don't you ask the cranes if these tail feathers were plucked by your nephew? Why then would these beautiful and noble birds attack Wu Heng for no reason? He must have done something wicked." Everyone's gaze focused on the Wu uncle and nephew duo. All suspicion on Yun Chujio had already been cleared, so the biggest suspect by then was Wu Heng. Instructor Wu was also uncertain. He had indeed given him the jade token from the beast house to facilitate his beast taming practice. Could it really be Henger's doing? Wu Heng raised his neck. "Uncle, feel free to ask. I didn't even come to the spirit beast garden last night, let alone pluck the tail feathers of these vermilion-beaked long-feather cranes." Instructor Wu heard Wu Heng's words, and to show that he was impartial, he asked the flock of cranes, "Did Wu Heng pluck your tail feathers?" Yun Chujio, who stood at the side, said with a smile, "Wu Heng is the fatty that you pecked with your beaks just now. Did he pluck your tail feathers? Otherwise, why did you attack him? I believe that such noble birds like you would not attack people for no reason. There must be a reason." The crane group pondered the meaning of Yun Chujio's words in confusion. Why did they feel that the little devil wanted them to testify against the fatty? However, that fatty was clearly a detestable person anyway. He dared to attempt to command them around like a pet. Since they could not peck him to death, it was good enough to be able to frame him. It was the right time to punish him for his arrogance. Hence, the crane group immediately nodded non-stop and even cried out angrily. Yun Chujio sighed. "Instructor Wu, now it's become hard to deal with. Will you punish your family? Or will you let him go due to his relationship with you?" Everyone's gaze immediately turned towards Instructor Wu. He then realized that had just shot himself in the foot. Everyone waited to see what he would do. Chapter 1049, Apologize to the cranes. Before Instructor Wu could say anything, Wu Heng ignored the pain in his body and ran to the crane house's beast pen and pointed at the cranes. "Are you all stupid? When did I pluck out your tail feathers? It was clearly that damned girl who did it. Why are you framing me?" The cranes were also capable of bullying others. Moreover, Yun Chujio had just said that they were noble birds, yet this damn fatty had called them stupid birds. His behavior was too detestable. The cranes cried out in anger and pounced on the side of the railing. They kept using their wings and long beaks to attack Wu Heng. At that time, the people who watched were certain that Wu Heng must have plucked the tail feathers of the flock of cranes. Even Instructor Wu was uncertain. Those tail feathers were most likely plucked by Heng. That idiot, just admit you plucked them. What are you quarreling about? This is great, so many people know about this now, so how can I protect you? Uncle, I didn't do it. I was in the dormitory yesterday afternoon. Wu Heng was so upset that he wanted to throw up blood. I have never been to the crane's dormitory, how could it be that I plucked the tail feathers? Instructor Wu was about to cry from his nephew's stupidity. In the dormitory? If that's the case, will there be anyone that can testify for you? Even if you want to find someone to perjure your testimony for you, there's no way. Instructor Wu's forehead was dripped with sweat. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, and he had even called the disciplinary department's instructor over. How was he going to end things now? Could it be that he was going to get Henger expelled from Tianyuan Academy? Instructor Yuan from the disciplinary department coughed and said, Instructor Wu, right now, Wu Heng's chances don't look very good. If we can't find any evidence, then we can only expel him according to the school rules. This, Instructor Yuan, this matter should be a misunderstanding. Henger wouldn't do such a ridiculous thing, Instructor Wu said with a smile. Instructor Yuan sneered in his heart, misunderstanding? The crane group had pointed out that it was your nephew who pulled out their tail feathers. Otherwise, how could they be so angry? Instructor Wu saw that Instructor Yuan did not speak, and he grew even more anxious. What should I do? Could it be that I have to go beg Deputy Dean Yin? I have something that I don't know whether to say or not. Yun Chujio weakly raised her small hands. Instructor Wu said unhappily, what do you mean? Speak. Although it's wrong for Wu Heng to pluck the tail feathers of the cranes, they have already punished him. Moreover, plucking tail feathers doesn't count as harming the spirit beast. After all, the tail feathers can still regrow eventually. Just let Wu Heng apologize to the cranes and forget about this matter. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and said in a diplomatic tone. Instructor Wu never thought that Yun Chujio would plead for mercy for Wu Heng. However, he did not have the time to think about Yun Chujio's motives now. He quickly followed Yun Chujio's lead and said, Instructor Yuan, what Yun Chujio said makes sense. The tail feathers of the vermilion-beaked long feather crane can regrow. After some time, they will grow back again. Moreover, Henger has already been punished. If Henger apologizes to the cranes, let's forget about this matter. Instructor Yuan's expression darkened slightly. Instructor Wu, the disciplinary department isn't your personal attack dogs. We're not people who can just come and go as you please. Don't make such jokes again next time. Instructor Wu knew he was in the wrong. With a smile, he said a lot of nice things to Instructor Yuan to placate him. Then, he said to Wu Heng, Henger, why aren't you apologizing to the cranes? Just apologize and this matter will be over. Wu Heng's heart was like a raging river. He clearly did not do anything, so why was he blamed? Who had he offended? Not only did he get injured, but he also had to apologize to the cranes. He even gained the reputation of being a fucking feather thief. Chapter 1050, Master, why are you so kind? Wu Heng wanted to argue further, but Instructor Wu glared at him. Quickly apologize. Otherwise, I'll immediately write a letter to your father. Wu Heng was immediately terrified. He could only walk to the front of the crane shed and apologize reluctantly. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have plucked your tail feathers. The cranes were originally angry. Now that the damn fatty had apologized, they returned to the resting area that Yun Chujio had drawn and lay down, no longer paying any attention to the people outside. Instructor Wu quickly laughed. It seems the cranes have decided to let this matter go, then let's also just forget about it. Instructor Yuan, Instructor Qian, it's my fault for being rash. I'll treat you someday and apologize to the two of you. Instructor Yuan and Instructor Qian exchanged a few words of courtesy and laughed coldly in their hearts. This Instructor Wu was thick-skinned enough to brazenly protect his nephew. He had probably used his power for personal gain many times. However, he was Deputy Dean Yin's lackey, it was better for them not to get on his bad side. Cough cough. Instructors, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving. Although the feeling of being wronged is very unpleasant, fortunately, I was cleared of suspicion in the end. Otherwise, I would really have taken the injustice to my grave. Yun Chujiu said with a sigh. Instructor Wu opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but he did not know what to say. He could only watch as Yun Chujiu hopped away. The third-grade students went to other beast houses and left the spirit beast garden after class. Only Instructor Wu stayed behind. Uncle, I really didn't pluck the tail feathers of those cranes. Wu Heng swore. If you didn't, why would they have hated you so much? Instructor Wu glared at him and said. Wu Heng said aggrievedly, how would I know? In any case, I really didn't do it. I think it's most likely that Yun Chujiu did it. Instructor Wu frowned, no matter what, if it wasn't for Yun Chujiu's quick thinking, it wouldn't have ended well for you today. Don't find trouble with her anymore. That little girl is too scheming. You can't beat her. Wu Heng reluctantly agreed, but he did not think much of it in his heart. Humph, she must have felt guilty to be involved in the first place. She must have plucked the tail feathers of the cranes. He would find an opportunity to teach her a lesson. At that time, Yun Chujiu had hopped back into the dormitory. Little Black Bird asked in confusion, Master, why did you help Wu Heng? When did you become so kind? Master Bird, am not that kind. It's just that if they investigated further, the culprit will inevitably be found out. This is the best ending. Moreover, it also gave me a good reputation of being kind and magnanimous, so why not? Yun Chujiu said with a smile. Little Black Bird curled its lips. It knew that their master's heart was black. How could she suddenly have become a white lotus? After Yun Chujiu cleaned the beast houses for a few days, some instructors and handymen in the spirit beast garden discovered that the beast houses of the violent barbaric bear and the vermilion-beaked long feather cranes were very neat. The demonic beasts were all moving in fixed areas and were very obedient. Someone reported the matter to Instructor Wu. After Instructor Wu checked it out, he asked everyone to learn how to do the same in other demonic beast areas. Unfortunately, the effect was not as they expected. Those other demonic beasts did not listen to them at all. Yun Chujiu's chaotic academy life became more and more peaceful. The students of the Huang class listened to her every word. Every day, after she attended classes and cleaned the spirit beast garden, she worked hard to cultivate. She deeply felt that being seen as a weakling would not be a good thing in the long run. Chapter 1051, The Incompetent Spiritual Power Class Instructor. Almost half a month had passed, and Instructor Zhou's spiritual power class was still conducted the same way as before. Most of the students in the Huang class could not understand him, and even a monster like Yun Chujiu could only understand 80% of the meaning. Moreover, it was mostly due to guesswork. Yun Chujiu felt that such conditions could not go on. She had to think of a way to verify whether Instructor Zhou was actually capable of being an instructor. On this day, when Instructor Zhou was in the middle of his spiritual power class, Yun Chujiu's small face was pale and beads of sweat dripped down her face. She asked for leave to return to the dormitory to rest. Although Instructor Zhou hoped that Yun Chujiu would die of pain, he was afraid of being caught and reluctantly agreed. However, he did not allow anyone to accompany her back. Unexpectedly, this played right into Yun Chujiu's hands. She ran to a quiet place and activated her concealment talisman. Then, she sneaked into the Tian classroom and carefully restrained her aura to eavesdrop on the content of the class. At this time, the Tian class was also having a spiritual power class. The person in charge of the class was Mo Hanxuan. Yun Chuzhou listened for a short while, then sneaked into the D classroom to eavesdrop on them as well. In the end, she sneaked into the Xian classroom to eavesdrop for a short while, then returned to the dormitory with a frown. Without a doubt, the standard of Instructor Zhou's lecture was not so inferior to that of the other three classes' instructor in charge. It was just that she did not know if it was because of his methods or whether he intentionally taught them in a vague manner. Regardless of which point it was, she could not allow Instructor Zhou to continue to teach the Huang class. Otherwise, during the mid-year competition, their Huang class would definitely be at a disadvantage. It was not just a matter of saving face, the main issue was that the last 50 students would be eliminated from Tianyuan Academy. That would be terrible. However, how could she drive Instructor Zhou away? If she were to protest collectively, it would probably not have a good effect. Although the punishment for beating up Ma Sheng and the others last time was not too severe, the risk was too great. This time, she had to think of another way. Yun Chuzhou thought for a bit and her eyes lit up. She took out a voice transmission talisman and gave Feng a few instructions. 2 days later, the students had a 10-day break from their studies. Junior sister Little Jiu, in these 3 days of our 10-day break, what are your plans? Feng Ming asked with a smile. Yun Chuzhou thought for a moment and said, I plan to go for a walk around Long Wind Inn. What about you guys? We won't go. We want to use these 3 days to digest the contents of our recent spiritual power lessons. We don't quite understand it, Feng Ming said with a slight blush. He had always thought that his aptitude was not bad in the Azure Mystic continent. However, when he arrived at the Tianyuan continent, he was repeatedly dumbstruck. If it was not for junior sister Little Jiu, he would not have been able to enter the Tianyuan Academy. Actually, it's not just the three of us who don't understand him. The vast majority of people from the Huang class don't understand either. I feel that Instructor Zhou is intentionally doing this, Shi Xian said from the side. Gung Yi also echoed, yes, junior sister Little Jiu, do you understand his lessons? I can barely understand most of it. It's not a problem with us, it's definitely him. Don't worry, I will get rid of Instructor Zhou very soon. Yun Chuzhou said confidently. Feng Ming and the other two knew that Yun Chuzhou had many evil schemes, so they did not ask further. After bidding farewell to the three of them, Yun Chuzhou left the Tianyuan Academy and went to Long Wind Inn. Miss Jiu, everything is normal in the Azure Mystic continent. This is a letter from Old Master Yun to you, and Feng handed Yun Chuzhou a letter. Yun Chuzhou took the letter and read it. It contained Yun Xiaoshan's words of concern and advice for her. Her heart felt warm, and it felt good to have a family member care about her. Little madman, where is the thing I asked about? Yun Chuzhou stretched out her hand and asked Feng. Chapter 1052, She's Too Evil. Feng handed 2 things to Yun Chuzhou and asked curiously, Miss Jiu, what do you want this recording stone and irritant powder for? Instructor Zhou, who is our spiritual power instructor, is obviously teaching us badly on purpose. I have to see strong evidence to expose him away and change him to a responsible and competent instructor. Yun Chuzhou's eyes flashed with a trace of sternness, if you dare to fool me, I will make you suffer the consequences. Feng lit a candle in his heart for Instructor Zhou. This Miss Jiu of theirs can never be fooled. You actually dared to play tricks in front of her. You are simply courting death. Yun Chuzhou asked Feng some more questions before she activated the isolation array and began to refine some pills. Although Feng had already witnessed Yun Chuzhou's abnormal pill refinement methods, he still felt a shock in his heart when he saw it again. Damn, Miss Jiu was truly abnormal. She made pill refinement seem like a children's game. The main reason was that the pills that she refined were all super-grade pills, and the success rate was 100%. It was really scary. Yun Chujio stayed in her room to refine pills for 2 days and 2 nights. Then, she handed a few large basins of pills to Enfong and asked him to pass them to Yu Hai of the Thunder sect. Shopkeeper Chi paced around outside a few times. He was puzzled. What was this Miss Chio and Enfong doing in the room? Why did they activate the isolation array? Was it to guard against him? Finally, upon seeing Yun Chujio come out of the room, Shopkeeper Chi pretended to have just arrived and asked, "Miss Chio, do you have any orders for me?" Yun Chujio glanced at the messy footprints on the ground and said with a smile, "Shopkeeper Chi, you are really thoughtful. You don't have to stand guard for me next time." Shopkeeper Chi's old face turned red, but he was old and cunning. He laughed and said, "Miss Chio, I haven't seen you for a long time. I'm anxious to ask if you need any help. Did everything go smoothly in Tianyuan Academy?" "Not bad. I just accidentally made some noise," Yun Chujio said and left with a yawn. Shopkeeper Chi looked at Yun Chujio's back and asked Enfong, "Commander Enfong, what noise did Miss Chio make?" Enfong's eyes twitched. "Well, Miss Chio led the students of the Huang class to beat up dozens of people from the 2nd grade Tian class. Then she ran to the gate of the disciplinary department to attempt to hang herself." Shopkeeper Chi staggered and almost fell to the ground. "What? How was that some noise? Miss Chio, will you turn Tianyuan Academy upside down?" "Commander Enfong, how did the Miss Chio get assigned to the Huang class with her results? Wasn't the Huang class not set up for many years?" Shopkeeper Chi came back to his senses and said, "I guess they found out about Miss Chio selling jade tokens in the 4th round of the test, so she was sent to the Huang class," Enfong guessed. "Then how did she become the class monitor? Why did she gang up on the 2nd-year students of the Tian class? Why did she go to the disciplinary department to hang herself? She caused such a big fuss, but nothing happened. Didn't they say that Tianyuan Academy has strict rules?" Shopkeeper Chi was full of questions. Looking at Miss Chio's appearance, she seemed like she had not received any punishments at all. How was that possible? Enfong rambled on about what Yun Chujio had told him earlier. Yun Chujio was such a freak. While refining pills, she told Enfong about what had happened recently. Shopkeeper Chi was stunned when he heard everything. His mouth did not close for a long time. Oh God, this Miss Chio was too much of a devil. She had almost messed up half of Tianyuan Academy. What was even worse was that she was only punished to clean the beast house for a month after causing such a huge commotion. How on earth did she do that? When did Tianyuan Academy become so lenient? Chapter 1053, The Pretty Boy's Subordinate, Ahem. Shopkeeper Chi, Miss Chio also did something just a few days ago. She plucked out the tail feathers of more than 20 vermilion-beaked long-feather cranes in the spirit beast garden of Tianyuan Academy. Enfong forced a smile and said, "What the hell? Why did she pluck out their tail feathers for no reason?" Shopkeeper Chi felt that his worldview had been severely impacted. Enfong recounted what had happened in the spirit beast garden. Shopkeeper Chi felt that he was well-rounded and could talk his way out of a lot of situations. However, now that he saw that he could not even reach 1/10 of that little girl's level. She had managed to forcefully push the blame onto someone else and even pretended to be an innocent party. Moreover, the most important thing was that that little girl was really vengeful. She'd strike back even over the smallest grievance. Shopkeeper Chi thought about those naked vermilion-beaked long-feather cranes and made up his mind. In the future, no matter what he said, he could not offend this little girl. She had too many schemes in her mind. Moreover, she was pure evil. Most importantly, she was good at distorting black and white. She was too much of a freak. Achoo! Achoo! Yun Chujio, who had walked towards Tianyuan Academy, sneezed a few times. She thought that shopkeeper Chi and Enfone must be whispering about her. These two loose-lipped men. Just as Yun Chujio cursed in her heart, she realized that there were people following her from behind. Yun Chujio used a small mirror in her sleeve to look behind her. She saw about 10 people following her from a distance. Although they were dressed in the same way as pedestrians, it was obvious that their eyes were focused on her. If Yun Chujio was fast, they would keep up with her. If Yun Chujio slowed down, they also would slow down. There was a dense forest not far ahead. They would probably make a move there. Yun Chujio rolled her eyes and activated a concealment talisman. The people behind her were instantly dumbfounded. Where was she? She was clearly in front of them just now. How could she disappear in such a short while? A concealment talisman. That wretched girl must have activated a concealment talisman. She did not expect that she would have such a good thing. It must have been given to her by the palace mistress. The leader, Scarface, looked around for fluctuations in spiritual power when he was suddenly staggered, after which, purple lightning bolts struck him one after another. Scarface did not expect that he would stumble for no reason. Caught off guard, although he managed to avoid the vital parts, he was still struck by Yun Chujio's lightning strike on his left shoulder. Scarface let out a miserable cry and directed several wind blades towards the spiritual power fluctuation. Yun Chujio had already dodged. Just as she was about to continue her attacks, several black-clothed men suddenly appeared from not far away and started to beat up the 10 or so people. The spiritual power of the men in black was much higher than the 10 men that followed her. In less than 15 minutes, the men who followed her were imprisoned on the spot and were beaten until their faces were swollen. "Miss Jiu, your subordinate came late. Please forgive me." After the men in black imprisoned Scarface and the others, they knelt and apologized. Only then did Yun Chujio remove the concealment talisman and reveal herself. From the looks of it, these men in black were the pretty boy's subordinates. It had to be said that he was quite good at disciplining his subordinates. "Bring these people into the forest ahead. I'll interrogate them." Yun Chujio waved her hand to signal for them to stand up. She cursed in her heart, "Damn it, if only I had known that the pretty boy had sent secret guards to protect me, I wouldn't have been so cowardly." The secret guards of the Hall of Longevity brought Scarface and the others into the forest ahead. Yun Chujio raised her large kitchen knife and chopped one of them to death. Then, she took out a token from that person's storage bag. In front of it was a name, on the back was the character Yin. Chapter 1054, Miss Jiu had grown more ruthless. The Yin family. Yun Chujio's eyes flashed with a fierce light. The Yin family had acted rather quickly. She did not know if these men were sent on the Yin siblings or Deputy Dean Yin's orders. The secret guards of the Hall of Longevity had once followed Di Biming to the League of Assassins base to rescue Yun Chujio. At that time, they were shocked by Yun Chujio's abnormal behavior. Now, they saw that Yun Chujio had killed one of them without asking a single question. They thought to themselves that Miss Jiu had grown more ruthless since that time. Scarface and the others saw that Yun Chujio did not have any intention of asking for a confession and was actually planning to kill them all. They immediately begged for their lives. "Fairy, spare us. Spare us. We were only ordered by someone. We were forced to do so." Yun Chujio wanted this kind of effect. She looked at Scarface coldly. "Speak. If I am satisfied with what you have said, I will spare you. Otherwise, I will kill you one by one." "I'll speak. I'll speak. We are the Yin clan's second branch's secret guards. This time, we followed our young master, Yin Shuechen, to Tianyuan Academy to apply and study there. After our young master entered the academy, he made us stay in Vigor City. Yesterday, our young master sent us a letter, asking us to capture you and sell you to Itsue Tower. To save his life, Scarface spilled everything." "Where's the letter?" I burned it after reading it. Yun Chujio gave the secret guards of the Hall of Longevity a look. One of the secret guards hit Scarface and the others in the neck, which rendered them unconscious. Find a place to lock them up. Maybe they will be useful in the future, Yun Chujio said lightly. Yin Xuecheng. Since you are so eager to die, I will find an opportunity to send you on your way. When I was in the Azure Mystic Continent, I was too worried and could not kill Zhuo Piaoyu in time, and almost caused a disaster. This time, I must learn my lesson. The secret guards of the Hall of Longevity split into two. One group escorted Scarface and the others away, while the other group secretly escorted Yun Chujio back to the academy. After Yun Chujio returned to the Tianyuan Academy, she returned to her dormitory and began to cultivate. No matter where she went, she had to rely on her own strength. Her current spiritual power was too low. Although she could challenge those of a higher level in other aspects, she was still too weak. While Yun Chujio cultivated in peace, Yin Xuecheng felt a little restless. The men he sent to kill Yun Chujio seemed to have vanished into thin air. There was no news from them at all. Could it be that Yun Chujio, that smelly girl, had killed them all? Impossible. His men were at least at the 7th level of the spirit sect. How could they not be able to defeat Yun Chujio, that weak smelly girl? Could it be that that wretched girl had someone protecting her in the dark? Could it be that the palace mistress had sent secret guards? If the palace mistress had sent a secret guard to Yun Chujio, it meant that that wretched girl's position in the palace mistress' heart was extraordinary. The palace mistress would not be angry, right? The more Yin Xuecheng thought about it, the more afraid he became. He gritted his teeth and went to see Deputy Dean Yin. Deputy Dean Yin listened to Yin Zucheng's account of what had happened. He shouted angrily, "Didn't I tell the three of you not to act rashly for the time being? Idiot! If you want to kill that little girl, you only need to do something inside the academy. Moreover, you won't be discovered by others. If you do things like this, won't you drag down the entire Yin family?" Fourth Grandpa, I was wrong. I was angered to death by that damn girl. Not only did she force Su Lian and me to kneel and apologize to her during the test, she even cheated us of 200,000 high-grade spirit stones. What was even more infuriating was that she embarrassed you in public. I really couldn't stand it anymore. Yin Xuecheng did not want to be scolded by Deputy Dean Yin, so he deliberately said that he was doing it to help Deputy Dean Yin vent his anger. Chapter 1055, Wait for the show to begin. As expected, Deputy Dean Yin's tone softened when he heard Yin Zucheng's words. Since the matter has already happened, there's no point in saying anything more. In the future, you should just obediently study in the academy. You don't have to worry about matters related to that little girl anymore. Just leave it to me. Fourth Grandpa, I'll listen to you. Do you think that the palace mistress will blame our Yin family? Don't worry. I've heard of the palace mistress character. Even if she has her heart set on this little girl, it's still easily swayed. Those secret guards might be the guards of the Long Wind Inn, so there's no need to worry too much, Deputy Dean Yin said in a deep voice. Yin Xuecheng felt relieved after he heard Deputy Dean Yin's words. He left Deputy Dean Yin's courtyard dejectedly. The next day, the first class of the day was Instructor Zhou's spiritual power class. Yun Chujio fiddled with the instructor's desk for a while, then returned to her seat with a smile. She gathered the 10 team leaders together and gave them a few mysterious instructions. Everyone nodded, then she returned to her seat. Not long after, Instructor Zhou walked in. The entire classroom was filled with the fragrance of food. Yun Chujio held a pig trotter in her hand and happily munched on it. He curled his lips in disdain. He originally thought that this Yun Chujio was very difficult to deal with, but now it seemed that she was just a glutton with a glib tongue. Instructor Zhou opened the lesson plan and began the lesson. The lesson was as obscure and difficult to understand as usual. As a result, many students began to ask questions. Instructor Zhou felt very annoyed, and the words of disdain slipped out of his mouth. It's not that I want to say this, but the students of your Huang class are not ordinary. You can't even understand such simple and easy to understand content. You're trash, extremely stupid. How can a class like you compare to the other 3 classes? In a few months, you will all be eliminated from the year-end competition. It is important to know one's own limits. With your low aptitude, you shouldn't have entered the Tianyuan Academy. You have brought the overall standard of the Tianyuan Academy to a lower level. Humph. With your limited comprehension abilities, you will never be able to learn how to solidify spirit energy in this lifetime. A bunch of trash. It's a shame that you're still alive. Why didn't you hang yourself at the entrance of the disciplinary department the last time? It's better if all of you trash just died. The Huang class students all gnashed their teeth in anger. However, Yun Chujiu had previously instructed them not to talk back to Instructor Zhou. Therefore, although they were all furious, they still listened obediently and no one dared to refute him. Instructor Zhou felt very proud in his heart. They were just a bunch of trash. They did not dare to make a sound when he scolded them like that. Deputy Dean Yin was too careful. These trash would not be able to achieve anything. After the class was over, Instructor Zhou left triumphantly. The students of the Huang class exploded. Class monitor, that Instructor Zhou is too much. Are we just going to endure it? Yes, class monitor, Instructor Zhou's actions are getting more and more out of hand. He usually just gives unclear lectures, and now he's starting to speak ill of us in our face. Let's go to the disciplinary department to protest this. Class monitor, hurry up and make a decision. We have to chase Instructor Zhou out. Yun Chujiu blinked her eyes. Don't worry, your class monitor already has a good idea. I promise to make Instructor Zhou suffer. The Huang class members were extremely confident in Yun Chujiu. When they heard what Yun Chujiu said, they were instantly relieved. If the class monitor said so, then she would definitely do it. They just had to wait for the show to begin. Chapter 1056, let's listen to something interesting. At noon, the canteen of Tianyuan Academy was usually very lively. There were no other canteens in Tianyuan Academy, so almost all the students and instructors would eat at the same place. Instructor Zhou and a few of Deputy Dean Yin's trusted aides sat together. Ever since Ma Minghua and Qi Cheng were fired, he had become Deputy Dean Yin's favorite aide, which made him feel full of himself. Brother Zhou, it is said that the first-grade Huang class students have average aptitudes. You have already taught them 20 days of worth of classes. What do you think? One of the instructors asked casually. Instructor Zhou curled his lips. In my opinion, that bunch of trash has sullied the reputation of our Tianyuan Academy. They have no qualifications to enter Tianyuan Academy at all. The other instructors at the same table looked at each other. They felt that some things should be kept to themselves, but why did this person just say it out loud? The instructor who asked the question quickly made a silent gesture. Instructor Zhou, be careful with your words. Although the effects of the medicine had subsided a little, Instructor Zhou was still in a half-excited state. He said arrogantly, "What's there to be afraid of? I even dared to say that in front of them. That bunch of trash could only listen obediently. They are trash to begin with, why would they be afraid of the truth?" The people sitting at the same table frowned. They felt that Instructor Zhou was a little too arrogant. He would get into trouble sooner or later if he kept speaking his mind like that. At that moment, someone saw a little girl standing on the table. She knocked on a large copper basin and shouted, "Everyone! Everyone, quiet down. There's no point in everyone eating anymore, instead, let's listen to something interesting. Are you interested?" Everyone was stunned. Then, they remembered what happened at the disciplinary department. That Yun Chujiu was extraordinarily bold. Could it be that she was going to do something drastic this time? Everyone's eyes immediately flashed with the light of gossip. They began to jeer, yes. We are interested. Junior Yun, please tell us. Yes, we were just feeling bored. Junior Yun, go ahead and say it. We are all listening. Yun Chujio looked in the direction of Instructor Zhou. Instructor Zhou's heart inexplicably trembled, and a very ominous feeling rose in his heart. Yun Chujio knocked on the copper basin, then, she said clearly, what I want to play is a lesson recorded by the recording stone. Everyone must be patient. I heard that this instructor is recognized by our Tianyuan Academy as an instructor with a relatively high teaching standard, so everyone will not be disappointed. Moreover, there is some very explosive content at the back, so everyone must be patient. After Yun Chujio finished, she formed a seal with her hands, and the voice from the recording stone started playing. Instructor Zhou immediately recognized that the voice was his voice during his morning lecture in the Huang class, and he immediately stood up. The lesson plan he had given in the Huang class was deliberately written in a complicated and obscure manner. Moreover, some important parts were skipped, and people with discerning eyes could immediately tell that he deliberately misled the students. Under Instructor Zhou's fright, the remaining effects of the irritant powder in his body were immediately reduced by more than half. He roared angrily, Yun Chujio. This dining hall is a place for eating. Quickly shut off that recording stone. Yun Chujio smiled at him. Instructor Zhou, our Huang class is really lucky to receive your sincere teachings. Since your lectures are so good, why don't you let everyone experience them? Seniors, do you all want to continue listening to Instructor Zhou's wonderful lectures and comments? Chapter 1057, had to get rid of him as soon as Yun Chujio finished her sentence, the onlookers started to jeer. Listen. We want to listen. Junior Yun, continue playing. Yes, we heard that Instructor Zhou's spiritual energy lessons are simple and easy to understand. We regret not having the chance to attend his classes. Junior Yun, hurry up. We still have lessons in the afternoon. Hurry up and continue playing. The students of Tianyuan Academy usually cultivated if they had no classes to attend. They wanted nothing more than to have some fun, so they started to jeer one after another. Instructor Zhou wanted to go forward and stop Yun Chujio, but he was blocked by those students and instructors, whether intentionally or not. He was unable to get close to Yun Chujio's table for a while. Instructor Zhou's voice continued to be heard, and the spectators all whispered to one another. They had all taken spiritual energy lessons before, so they could easily tell that something was wrong. This level of teaching was relatively high. What kind of bullshit was he talking about? It was originally very simple, but he had beaten around the bush to make it sound more complicated. Also, some of the terms he used were rarely seen. It would be a miracle if a first-year freshman could understand them. The crowd quickly understood Instructor Zhou's intentions. He clearly tried to mislead his students. That was too much. When they heard what Instructor Zhou said later in the recording, everyone immediately exploded. That Instructor Zhou was too arrogant. No matter how bad the student's aptitude was in the Huang class, as an instructor, you should not insult the students like that. Such a person was not worthy of being an instructor. Instructor Zhou's face flushed red. At that moment, the effects of the irritant powder in his body had completely dissipated. He shouted in exasperation, Yun Chujio, this thing of yours is a forgery. I've never said such things. The students of the Huang class immediately refused to accept it. Fuck. We've tolerated you for a long time. Now that the evidence is conclusive, you still refuse to admit it. Do you still have any sense of shame? I'm willing to testify. Everything the recording stone recorded is true. That is what Instructor Zhou said when he was giving us a spiritual energy lesson this morning. Right. I'm also willing to testify. Every time in class, Instructor Zhou is very impatient. He doesn't answer our questions and even ridicules us. I'm willing to swear an oath. If these words weren't spoken by Instructor Zhou, and if I lied, he'll be struck by lightning. I'm also willing. The students of the Huang class were filled with righteous indignation. If Instructor Zhou was not replaced, our Huang class would not be doing well. At that time, during the mid-year competition, we would be eliminated, so we had to get rid of him. When the onlookers saw that the students of the Huang class even swore on their inner demons, they were even more certain that the recording stone was real. In that case, Instructor Zhou had gone too far. He clearly misled the students. Yun Chuzhou put away the recording stone, then her small face turned stiff. Instructors, students, I believe that with your intelligence and wisdom, you have already understood Instructor Zhou's sinister intentions. He just wants to delay the progress of our Huang class. His intentions are extremely sinister. I admit that our Huang class might not be as talented as the students of the other 3 classes, but we all entered the exam together fairly, so what right do we have to be treated like this? Instructor Zhou, as an instructor, you intentionally misled other people's children. Do you still deserve to be called an instructor? Instructor Zhou had originally thought that the students of the Huang class would feel inferior and give up on themselves if they did not understand the spiritual energy class. They would not have suspected that they had been misled by him. Who would have thought that there would be such a weirdo among them? She had actually used a recording stone to record the contents of the lesson. Moreover, he had said so many inappropriate words today. It was likely things would not go well for him. Instructor Zhou thought for a while, then he shouted with a fierce expression, "What do you know about teaching? It is precisely because your qualifications are not high that I have changed my teaching methods. I am not trying to provoke you. I am trying to stimulate your potential." Humph. You don't know what's good for you. After Instructor Zhou finished speaking, he flicked his sleeves and left, heading straight for Deputy Dean Yin's study. He knew that if he did not think of a way out of that situation, he would definitely be fired. Chapter 1058, Looking for the Dean. When Yun Chuzhou saw that Instructor Zhou had left, she blinked her eyes. Instructor Zhou must have called for reinforcements, so she had to be ahead of him. Otherwise, if she did not finish him off soon, she would be in trouble instead. When Yun Chuzhou thought of that, she jumped down from the table and said to the students of the Huang class, "You guys continue to eat, I'm going out for a stroll." Before everyone could react, Yun Chuzhou had already disappeared like a rabbit. Everyone could not help but click their tongues in wonder. This little girl's spiritual power was low, but they didn't expect her movement technique to be so fast. She had disappeared so quickly. Where did she go? At the time, Yun Chuzhou had already arrived outside Dean Huangfu's courtyard. She was also fearless. She did not even consider whether Dean Huangfu would meet a student of the Huang class so casually. Yun Chuzhou hopped outside Dean Huangfu's courtyard and a burly guard stopped Yun Chuzhou. "Brother guard, please inform him that the first year's Huang class, Yun Chuzhou, is requesting to meet the dean. Tell him she says that it has something to do with the rise and fall of Tianyuan Academy." Yun Chuzhia's small face was very serious. The guard was shocked by Yun Chuzhia's words and serious expression. "Wait a moment here." After a short while, the guard walked out. "Yun Chuzhou, the dean wants you to go in." Yun Chuzhou smiled at the guard. "Okay, thank you, brother guard." The guard thought to himself, sometimes you have to have some tricks up your sleeve. If it were not for her words, the guard would not have informed the dean and he would not have agreed to meet a first-year student like her. Yun Chuzhou hopped into the courtyard. Although it was not very big, the interior was very elegant. Yun Chuzhou followed the direction of the guard and walked to the outside of Dean Huangfu's study. After Yun Chuzhou knocked on the door a few times, Dean Huangfu's voice came from inside. "Come in." Yun Chuzhou pushed the door open and entered. She saw Dean Huangfu sitting behind the desk and she hurriedly bowed. "Greetings, Dean." Dean Huangfu nodded. "I heard that you have something important to report to me regarding the rise and fall of Tianyuan Academy." "That's right, Dean, I'm not exaggerating." "What kind of place is our Tianyuan Academy?" "It's a place that teaches and educates people. If someone intentionally misleads people's children, do you think this is a major matter that concerns the rise and fall of our Tianyuan Academy?" "Oh. Intentionally misleading people's children? What's going on?" Dean Huangfu frowned. Yun Chuzhou told him everything about Instructor Zhou and handed the recording stone to Dean Huangfu. "Dean, if you feel that the evidence I provided is not reliable, you can send someone to secretly investigate. Instructor Zhou has ulterior motives." It had already been more than 20 days since the start of the semester, and the other 3 classes' students had already learned most of the lessons regarding the materialization of spiritual power. "Our Huang class also has good students, and yet many of our students cannot understand a thing he taught us to this day. When it's time for examinations, our Huang class results would not be good, and he would give an excuse saying that our qualifications were too low. That bastard is too sinister and despicable. Sir Dean, I had already exposed Instructor Zhou's ugly behavior in the cafeteria just now. He shamelessly said that it was to motivate us and then left in a hurry with his tail between his legs. I always felt that this matter could only be completely resolved by you, so I thickened my skin and came to look for you. I hope you won't blame me." Yun Chujia's small face was full of emotions. One moment she was furious, the next moment she looked pitiful. Chapter 1059, The Little Devil Wants to Learn Beast Taming. Yun Chuzhou, you may go back. I will send someone to deal with this matter immediately. Dean Huangfu thought to himself that it would be a pity if this little girl did not report something like that. Instructor Zhou was really detestable. It was fine if he usually formed a group for personal gain, but he made a joke about the student's future. He deserved to be punished. After she thanked Dean Huangfu, Yun Chuzhou hopped out of Dean Huangfu's courtyard. It was unknown how Dean Huangfu had negotiated with Deputy Dean Yin. In any case, in less than 2 days, Instructor Zhou was fired. The new person to teach the Huang class was Instructor Ji Sha. In fact, the other 3 classes instructors of the Spirit Energy class had their instructors in charge teach them their Spiritual Power class. Only the Huang class was assigned to Instructor Zhou. The students of the Huang class were very uncertain at the beginning. Could Instructor Ji Sha be able to do it? Not only was he sloppy, but he could not be seen all day long. If it were not for the class monitor, their Huang class would be like a child without a mother. Unexpectedly, when Instructor Ji Sha taught them, he was more than 100 times better than Instructor Zhou. Not only was his lectures deep and simple, but he was also very vivid in his descriptions. Everyone immediately felt like they had found some treasure. Yun Chuzhou was puzzled. How did Instructor Ji Sha, who had such a high standard of lecture, end up in such a miserable state? Yun Chuzhou counted with her fingers. If she went to the Spirit Beast Garden again today, she would not have to go again in the future. Thus, she hopped to the Spirit Beast Garden. After Yun Chuzhou had cleaned the bear house, she praised the 8 barbaric bears and then hopped to the vermilion-beaked long-feathered crane's beast house. A small part of the tail feathers of the vermilion-beaked long-feathered cranes had already grown back. They were now very obedient, afraid that Yun Chuzhou would cause trouble for them again. Little babies, today is the last time I will help you clean the beast house. In the future, there will be very few opportunities for us to meet. Don't miss me too much. Yun Chuzhou said after she cleaned the vermilion-beaked long-feathered crane's beast house. After they listened to her parting words, the vermilion-beaked long-feathered cranes barely held back the urge to sing a song. That little devil was finally going to leave. They could finally return to the days where they were free. Their feathers were finally safe. Why aren't you saying anything? Are you missing me already? Don't worry, there will be a beast taming class in a few days. When that time comes, I will come and play with you. Yun Chujio said with a smile. The crane group's mood instantly fell from the clouds to the 18th level of hell. What? The little devil wanted to learn beast taming techniques. Oh God, oh Earth, their days were numbered. Who could save them? Obviously, the crane's prayers did not have any effect. 3 days later, the first grade's beast taming class began. As it was an elective class, not many people attended the class. Therefore, there was no distinction between the 4 classes, Tian, Di, Xian, and Huang. All the first grade students attended the class together. That meant that she would eventually run into her rivals. Sure enough, Yin Xuecheng and Yin Sulian also chose to attend the beast taming class. Yin Zucheng's expression was very haggard. Ever since he sent out those assassins and they did not return, he had been worried for several days. He felt uneasy in his heart the entire time. And the worst thing was that when he went to the Itsue Tower during his break, he found that his body could no longer function normally. No matter how those women teased him, there was no response. He secretly went to a few medical centers and spent a lot of money to buy a lot of medicine, but it still had no effect. He could only thicken his skin and see Deputy Dean Yin. Deputy Dean Yin did not find out the reason, so he had to let him cultivate in peace. If there was a chance, he would look for Herb King Bai Li of Herb King Valley to check it out. Chapter 1060, The Submission of 10,000 Beasts. Compared to Yin Zucheng's drooping head, Yin Sulian had a proud expression on her face. With Yin Xinlian's care, Yin Sulian had a good time in the Tian class. Around her, some people flattered her. It was as if the stars had supported the moon. Yin Xinlian saw that Yun Chujio had also chosen the beast taming class. She could not help but twitch her lips. Yun Chujio, don't tell me you think that after cleaning the spirit beast house for a few days, you can tame beasts. TSK, it's not that I look down on you, beast taming masters can only control beasts of a lower level than themselves. Your first level of spirit sect is equivalent to a level 16 demon beast. The lowest level of demon beasts here are all level 16. You have no way to make use of these beast taming skills, so you'd better give up as soon as possible. Ha! You'd better hurry up and cultivate your spirit energy. I heard that the spirit power lessons of your Huang class are a complete mess. When you're eliminated, please don't go and hang yourself from sadness, ha ha ha. Yin Sulian's followers also started to laugh wildly, mocking Yun Chujio for overestimating herself. Feng Ming and the other 2 were worried about Yun Chujio, so they also followed her and chose to attend the beast taming class. After all, since it was an elective and there was no test, they had nothing to lose. After they heard Yin Sulian's words, they immediately wanted to refute her, but Yun Chujio waved her hand and said indifferently, Yin Sulian, I thought you had learned how to be smart, but you're still so stupid after all this time. The beast taming technique is not something that can be achieved overnight, and the instructor won't let you control the spirit beast now. The first grade is only teaching some basic seals, and even if you practice, you will only find some low-level beasts. Humph. Nonsense. There are no demonic beasts below the 16th level in this spirit beast garden. Where can the instructor find low-level demonic beasts for us to practice on? Yin Sulian said disdainfully. Yun Chujio curled her lips. I said you are stupid, but it seems that was too generous. The level of an adult demonic beast is naturally high, so instead, we can find some young demonic beasts to practice with. When Yun Chujio had cleaned the beast house, she once saw that the second-grade students all looked for some younger demonic beasts to practice with. That was how she figured out that technique. Although Yin Sulian wanted to refute Yun Chujio, she had to admit that perhaps what Yun Chujio said was right. They had just started learning the beast taming technique, so it was impossible for them to control a level 16 adult demon beast. Just when Yin Sulian was still at a loss for words, the instructor of the beast taming class arrived. Yun Chuzhou took a look. Was this not the third grade's instructor Qian? It seemed that old man Huangfu was quite stingy. To save money, one employee had to do several jobs. In fact, Yun Chuzhou had wronged Dean Huangfu. Among the 5 techniques of cultivators, beast taming was relatively useless. Moreover, very few people could cultivate their beast taming skills to a high level. Therefore, despite the Tianyuan Academy's generous treatment, they only managed to recruit a few beast taming masters. Instructor Qian took on both the 1st and 3rd grade beast taming classes. Instructor Qian had a very deep impression of Yun Chuzhou. After he went back, he carefully thought about the matter of the crane group's tail feathers being plucked. He felt that it was not Wu Heng who did it. On the contrary, this little girl was a more likely suspect, so he was very curious, how did this little girl at the first level of the spirit sect deal with an entire group of cranes? After all, there were more than 20 level 16 demonic birds in there. Instructor Qian now saw that Yun Chuzhou had chosen to take the beast taming class, so he paid more attention to her. He was ready to observe what special abilities she had. Instructor Qian looked around at everyone, then he said, beast taming has always been regarded as the most useless subject among the 5 arts of cultivators. It isn't. The reason why everyone feels that beast taming isn't very useful is that their beast taming art hasn't been cultivated to a certain level. If they cultivate it to a certain level, even 10,000 beasts will submit to their will, and it will be much more powerful than the other 4 arts. When Feng Ming and the other 2 heard Instructor Qian say this, they cursed in their hearts. Junior sister little Jiu of ours does not have any knowledge on beast taming, yet she can still make all sorts of beasts submit to her. Chapter 1061, Simple and Crude Methods. Yun Chuzhou did not think so. Back in the Elixir Valley, those demonic beasts had no choice but to listen to her commands. Otherwise, how could she possibly command them? It would be different if she had learned the beast taming technique. When the time came, she only needed to lure a group of demonic beasts with the strange grass. She could assume direct control of them to fight her enemies. Thinking of such a scene touched her. It was a simple and crude method, the type she liked the most. Yun Chuzhou's eyes sparkled, and Feng Ming and the other 2 inexplicably shivered. Every time junior sister little Jiu had that expression, she would stare at something or someone. It seemed she had picked her next victim. Instructor Qian continued, although the power of the beast taming technique is astonishing, it is not easy to master. Not only do you need to work hard, but you also need to have a certain amount of talent and affinity with demonic beasts. Therefore, if you don't have full confidence in your other abilities, you can use the beast taming technique as a supplementary subject, and then choose another cultivator's 5 techniques as an elective course. Yun Chuzhou ridiculed him in her heart. Instructor Qian was really honest. After hearing what you said, most of the students here would probably give up. Sure enough, after they heard what Instructor Qian said, more than half of the students showed hesitation on their faces. Yin Sulian said proudly, the students of our Tian class are naturally quite talented. Some of the students from the Huang class should give up now to avoid wasting everyone's time and resources. Yun Chuzhou frowned and did not say anything. It's just a clown who spoke after all. Sooner or later, she will teach Yin Sulian a lesson. Seeing that Yun Chuzhou had stayed silent, Yin Sulian felt that she felt guilty and did not dare to say anything. The expression on her face became even more smug. Because your spiritual power is low now, these demon beasts are too difficult for you. So in the future beast taming class, you should try to control demon beast eggs first. Instructor Qian glanced at Yin Sulian and snorted in his heart, no matter how talented they were, it was useless when one had an attitude like that. Such students were the definition of stupidity. Demon beast eggs. Instructor Qian, do these demon beast eggs have spiritual intelligence? A student asked in confusion. Demon beast eggs naturally don't have spiritual intelligence yet when they are just laid. However, demon beast eggs that are about to hatch will have developed some spiritual intelligence. Moreover, they are stronger than newborn baby beasts. They won't be harmed if you accidentally end up torturing them while you learn. Moreover, it will also strengthen their spiritual sense. Instructor Qian explained. Everyone finally understood why Instructor Qian had chosen demonic beast eggs as their training subject. Yun Chujiu scoffed in her heart, "Damn, humans really are amazing. These demonic beasts were going to be tortured before it was even born." Everyone followed Instructor Qian outside to a courtyard. An instructor who was responsible for guarding the courtyard unlocked it and Instructor Qian led everyone in. There were several small sheds in the courtyard. Almost every small shed was set up with an array formation. It was basically a spirit gathering array. Occasionally, some sheds were also set up with a formation to control the cold or heat, to simulate the living environment of these demon beasts. Yun Chujiu looked at the eggs of all sizes, and instantly, images of food appeared in her mind. Scrambled eggs, steamed eggs, and preserved eggs. She wiped the saliva that had not even flowed at the edge of her mouth and complained in her heart. Why were these demon beasts born from eggs instead of embryos? The eggs of those large demon beasts were enough for a person to eat for several months. Instructor Qian brought everyone to the front of a shed, then, he said, "These are the eggs of the vermilion-beaked long-feather crane. Today, I will first teach you how to establish a connection with the spiritual sense of the demon beasts. Don't be impatient. Generally speaking, it takes about 3 months of practice to succeed." Chapter 1062, Demon Beast Egg Riot. After Instructor Qian finished speaking, he began to teach everyone how to establish contact with the spiritual sense of demon beasts. Instructor Qian's explanation was simple and easy to understand. However, when everyone tried doing it, they realized that it was not the case at all. Due to the limited number of demon beast eggs, everyone had to practice in batches. The first batch of students practiced for a long time and left with depressed expressions. No matter how they tried, the monster eggs did not react. Yin Sulian said unhappily, "Instructor Qian, don't tell me these monster eggs have no intelligence at all. Otherwise, why don't they have any reaction at all?" Instructor Qian frowned, "I have already told you before, don't think of achieving it in one go. It is impossible to succeed without thousands of practice sessions. In the future, you will practice how to establish a connection with them in the beast taming class." Some people lost interest in beast taming techniques after they heard that. It was really boring to practice on an egg for several months. After seeing the way some of the students reacted, Instructor Qian shook his head slightly. "If they can't even overcome such a small obstacle, they are not suitable to practice beast taming techniques in the first place." Yun Chujiu was last to go. She was bored as she waited, so she jumped to the front of the other small shed to observe the demon beast eggs curiously. "Strange grass, since you can attract demon beasts, do you think you can attract demon beast eggs too?" Yun Chujiu asked the strange grass in her dantian curiously. Strange grass waved at her with disdain. Then, the whole yard erupted into chaos. Almost all the demon beast eggs that had suddenly gained sentience and tried their best to attack the array, trying to escape. The ones affected the most were the students who were still inside as they tried to establish contact. The demon beast eggs suddenly flew up and caught them off guard. Yin Xuechen was the most unfortunate one. He was hit by a demon beast egg on the bridge of his nose. Immediately, his face was covered in blood and he was left in a very sorry state. Everyone was stunned at first, then they shouted in panic, "Have the demon beast eggs gone crazy? Why are they going berserk? It's too scary. Strange grass. You idiot. I'm just asking you, who told you to do it immediately? Stop right now." Yun Chujiu knew that she was in trouble. She was afraid that the demon beast egg would charge at her, so she quickly asked Strange Grass to stop. Strange Grass swayed proudly as if to prove that the demon beast eggs could not escape from its grasp. However, it still stopped emitting the smell that made the demon beasts go crazy. The demon beast eggs frantically searched for the source of the fragrance. Unexpectedly, the fragrance suddenly stopped and disappeared. The violent demon beast eggs gradually quieted down. The dozens of demon beast eggs that had flown out of the shed were also picked up by Instructor Qian and the instructor guarding the courtyard. Yin Xuechen covered his nose and cursed loudly, "Are these freaking demon beast eggs crazy? Is the array formation here just for decoration? My nose has been broken." The instructor in charge had a very ugly expression. No matter who it was that scolded them like that, he would not feel happy. He replied unhappily, "Student, you should watch your words. If the array formation was just for decoration, those demon beast eggs would have rushed out long ago. Moreover, why were you the only one who was injured when the other students were not? Could it be that you were the cause of the demon beast eggs going berserk?" Yin Xuechen said exasperatedly, "How could I cause the anger of the demon beast eggs? I just followed Instructor Qian's instructions to establish a connection with these demon beast eggs." Instructor Qian said indifferently, "Yin Xuechen, it was just an accident. Why aren't you apologizing to Instructor Du?" Chapter 1063, The approaching Wu Yun. Yin Xuechen unwillingly apologized to the instructor. Although Instructor Du was very angry, he nodded on account of Instructor Qian. The matter was considered resolved. Instructor Qian used his spiritual sense to establish a connection with one of the demon beast eggs and asked why it was agitated just now. To protect its food, the demon beast egg was afraid that others would eat the fragrant thing, so it lied and hid the real reason. It only said that it was suddenly agitated. Instructor Qian asked a few other demon beast eggs, but they all gave similar answers. Instructor Qian frowned and said to Instructor Du, "Instructor Du, I don't know what the reason is for these demon beast eggs to suddenly go berserk. They seem to just suddenly feel agitated." Instructor Du also frowned. The demon beasts are agitated either because they have something that attracts them, or because there are extremely powerful demon beasts nearby, or because they have been struck by lightning or earth dragons. I'll report this to Instructor Wu and have him investigate thoroughly. Instructor Qian, you can make up for today's beast taming class another day. Instructor Qian also felt that it was unusual. He nodded and said to the students, "Today's beast taming class will be postponed to tomorrow afternoon. All of you are free to leave. I still have some matters to attend to here." The students were also quite frightened by the demon beast egg riot just now. When they heard Instructor Qian's words, those who did not have any objections all left. Yun Chuzhou felt guilty for what had happened. "Oh God, I didn't do it on purpose. I just asked, but who knew that that idiot Strange Grass would really suddenly entice those demon beast eggs with its scent?" While Yun Chuzhou blamed herself, the sky strangely turned dark. Yun Chuzhou suddenly had a bad premonition. Fuck. Her spiritual power had shown signs of a breakthrough recently. Could it be that old bastard Tian Dao had sent heavenly lightning clouds after her? If that was the case, then it would be terrible. She might accidentally injure others, or even worse, the fact that she was not afraid of being struck by lightning might be exposed. Who knows, she might attract some other trouble if that secret got out. What should she do now? The clouds in the sky grew thicker and thicker. The immense pressure made people feel very downcast. Yun Chuzhou gritted her teeth. There was only one place that was most suitable for her now. As she thought of what to do, Yun Chuzhou hurriedly said to Feng Ming and the other two, "I have something to do. I'll be leaving first." Yun Chuzhou started to run. Everyone only had time to see an afterimage of her. Yin Sulian said disdainfully, "Humph. I guess she's afraid after hearing Instructor Wu say that. Not only is she a good-for-nothing, but she's also a coward." Feng Ming could not hold it in anymore. He said coldly, "Yin Suyen, don't forget. If it weren't for our junior sister Little Jiu, you wouldn't even have passed the third round of the test. It's fine if you aren't grateful, but you still keep slandering junior sister Little Jiu. You really are a scoundrel. Don't worry, our junior sister Little Jiu will show you what a true genius is sooner or later." Yin Suyen pursed her lips. Genius? More like a fool. Humph. Only the trash of the Azure Mystic Continent would think that Yun Chujio is a genius, right? You guys just wait to be eliminated in the mid-year competition. Second Miss Yin is right. The four of you are not qualified to enter the Tian Yuan Academy in the first place. You were just lucky. Just wait to be eliminated. That Yun Chujio only knows how to sensationalize things all day long. She doesn't have any real ability. I heard that their Huang class can barely understand the basics of the solidification of spiritual power. When the time comes, the 50 people who will be eliminated might all be from the Huang class. Chapter 1064. The dumbfounded Dean Feng Ming and the dozens of people from the Huang class were furious when they heard Yin Sulian's words. When they wanted to argue with her, the pressure in the sky became even more intense. It was hard for them to even breathe, let alone argue. They quickly dispersed. Feng Ming and the other two vaguely guessed that junior sister Little Jiu was about to break through. The heavenly lightning clouds were meant to go after her. Where would she go? Could she have gone back to the dormitory? Yun Chujio got out of the spirit beast garden and went straight to Dean Huangfu's courtyard. In a short while, she ran to the outside of Dean Huangfu's courtyard. The guard on duty was still the same burly guard from earlier. Big brother guard. Hurry up. Someone is going to die. Let me in quickly. Yun Chujia's small face was full of anxiety. The guard was shocked and thought to himself, why does this little girl always make things sound so scary? The guard had hesitated when Yun Chujio continued, "Brother guard, don't you think that thick layer of clouds is a little scary? I have an urgent matter to tell the headmaster. Let me in quickly, or it will be too late." The guard also felt that the sky was a little strange, so he said, "Wait a moment, I will go in and inform him. I'll return as soon as possible." Yun Chujio glanced at the clouds that had already caught up to her, and with a whoosh, she jumped into the courtyard. "It's too late. Dean, please come out quickly. It's an urgent matter." Dean Huangfu was reading in the study when he heard Yun Chujio's voice. He frowned unhappily. Why did this Yun Chujio come to my place instead of attending class? Although Dean Huangfu was displeased, he still walked out of his study. "Dean," she forced her way in. "I failed in my duty." The guard quickly apologized. Yun Chujio looked at the guard apologetically. "Dean, please don't blame the guard. I was the one who shamelessly forced my way in. The heavenly lightning clouds are most likely here to strike me. I think your courtyard is the most suitable. You should quickly think of excuses and not let anyone in." The corners of Dean Huangfu's eyes twitched. There was no one else who could say such shameless things so confidently. He raised his head and looked at the clouds, then at Yun Chujio. He misunderstood Yun Chujio's meaning. "Little girl, do you want me to help you endure the heavenly lightning? Although I can help you, you still have to carry the heavenly lightning yourself next time. Otherwise, Tian Dao will continue to come after you in the future. I can't help you every time." At that moment, the Wu Yun arrived above the dean's courtyard. A bolt of purple lightning as thick as a child's arm had already struck towards Yun Chujio. She did not have the time to explain and could only push Dean Huangfu away. "I'll do it myself. Just don't let anyone in, and don't go out either. Stay far away." Dean Huangfu was dumbfounded. Has this little girl gone mad? She even dared to push him. And she even said that she would do it herself. Did she think that the heavenly lightning was a joke? Perhaps, she would be fine after being struck a few times in the Azure Mystic continent, but how could it compare to the heavenly lightning in the Tianyuan continent? She really did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. Forget it, they'll just watch for now. If she can't hold on any longer, it wouldn't be too late for me to intervene. Dean Huangfu thought of that and took a few steps back. Then, he said to the guard, "You can leave now. No one is to enter until I say so." Dean Huangfu thought for a moment and decided to activate the isolation array in the courtyard. Then, he was dumbfounded. He felt that Yun Chuzhou had been struck by the first lightning bolt. Although she was not severely injured, she should at least be slightly hurt. However, she just strolled around the courtyard with a relaxed expression. Chapter 1065, I feel so comfortable. Yun Chuzhou had a handkerchief wrapped around her head as she hopped around the courtyard. She looked around as if she were just a stroll after a meal. "Yun Chuzhou, what are you doing?" Dean Huangfu asked after he regained his senses. "Dean, I'm observing where the hole will be when I get struck by the lightning. Do you want to build a pond in the courtyard? I'll get the heavenly lightning to help you dig one." Yun Chuzhou saw that Dean Huangfu's courtyard was very elegant. If it were struck by the heavenly lightning and was riddled with holes, he would definitely look for her to settle the score. Dean Huangfu was so angry that he was twitched. Did this little girl's brain get kicked by a demon beast? What nonsense was she talking about? Why are you thinking of digging a pond for me instead of thinking about how to save your life? Yun Chuzhou saw that Dean Huangfu's livid face and thought that this old man was most likely narrow-minded. Forget it, she would just choose the empty space on the eastern side. Thus, Yun Chuzhou hopped onto the empty space on the eastern side of the courtyard and sat down cross-legged, as she waited to be struck by lightning. At that moment, the second bolt of heavenly lightning had already flown towards her. Dean Huangfu thought to himself, "I told you not to show off. Let's see how you will deal with this second bolt of heavenly lightning. This bolt of heavenly lightning will definitely make you grimace with pain." A moment later, Dean Huangfu was still in a daze. He saw that little girl still sitting there leisurely and she even giggled at him as if nothing had happened. Dean Huangfu felt that there was something wrong with his eyes. Even if he had been struck by such a thick heavenly lightning bolt, he would not have been completely unharmed. Dean Huangfu rubbed his eyes and looked carefully. That's right, that little girl was not injured at all. Moreover, there were no fluctuations of spirit energy on her body. This meant that she had even not used a defensive spirit tool to withstand it, she had withstood the heavenly lightning using her own abilities. How was this possible? Perhaps the heavenly thunder root spirit was more resistant to lightning? He would have to wait and see later. He reckoned that even if there were 10 or 8 more heavenly lightning strikes, she would end up half dead. Boom! Boom! The heavenly lightning struck continuously, and soon, a deep pit was formed on the ground. At first, Dean Huangfu could still see Yun Chuzhou's small head, but as the pit grew deeper, he could no longer see anything at all. "Yun Chuzhou, how are you doing?" Dean Huangfu shouted at the top of his voice. I'm fine. I haven't been struck in a long time. I feel so comfortable." Yun Chuzhou's smug voice came from the hole. Dean Huangfu's eyes twitched. Comfortable? Are you kidding me? How could being struck by lightning be described as comfortable? Yun Chuzhou, don't try to be brave. If you can't hold on any longer, ask this old man for help. Dean Huangfu offered. The heavenly thunder root spirit gave her better endurance against lightning strikes compared to ordinary people. Although it had withstood 10 bolts of lightning, it would definitely not be able to withstand 20. Alright, thank you, Dean. If I can't hold on any longer, I will ask you for help. Yun Chuzhou's beaming voice came from the deep pit. Dean Huangfu was dumbfounded. This little girl was probably the only one who could be so happy after being struck by lightning, right? Boom! Boom! Another wave of dense lightning struck her. Yun Chujia's singing voice occasionally drifted out from the deep pit. Din Huangfu could vaguely hear lyrics like, "I'm really happy today." Din Huangfu felt that he had hallucinated. He pinched his thigh hard, and the pain almost made him cry out. Heavens! This was real. This little girl had been struck by more than 20 bolts of lightning and was still fine. This was too unbelievable. Din Huangfu raised his head to take a look. The clouds in the sky were still very thick. It was estimated that they would keep at it for some time. Could the little girl withstand it? Chapter 1066, Could it be a fake? Din Huangfu thought for a moment. If she could not hold on any longer, he would not be able to help her since she was in the pit. He stretched his neck and shouted, "Little girl, get out of there and find another place to be struck." Yun Chujio shouted from the pit, "Din, isn't it forbidden to ride on our swords to fly in the academy? This pit is too deep. How can I get out? This is an urgent matter, so I'm making an exception." The corner of Din Huangfu's eyes twitched. "You little devil, now you're mindful of the rules of the academy. Where was this consideration when you led a group of people to beat up a senior? Why didn't you think about the rules and you went to the disciplinary department to hang yourself?" Just as Din Huangfu complained, he saw Yun Chujio fly out from the pit. Wait! What the hell was that thing under the little girl's feet? Why did it look more and more like a chopping board? People use chopping boards as flying tools. Just as Din Huangfu was in a daze, he saw Yun Chujio put away the chopping board and sat cross-legged on the ground. She said to Din Huangfu with a smile, "Din, I have something good for you. Catch it." After saying that, Yun Chujio threw something over. Din Huangfu reached out to catch it and almost threw it away. What the hell was that? It was so hot. Din Huangfu lowered his head and looked at his nose. It was a roasted spirit potato. What was this? She was still thinking about eating at a time like this. Was she trying to turn me into a glutton too? Din Huangfu wanted to throw the spirit potato away when he heard Yun Chujio say unhappily, "Din, I baked this spirit potato for you with heavenly lightning. This is a unique dish only made in the Tianyuan continent with the Wu Yun here. Other people wouldn't be able to eat it even if they wanted to. If you don't want it, give it back to me." What was that? Baked by heavenly lightning? Are you kidding me? Since when did heavenly lightning help cultivators cook food? The Wu Yun in the sky also trembled with anger. This was too much. Too much. This was too much. It was heavenly lightning cloud. It was created to strike people with lightning, not used to bake spirit potatoes. Today, she would definitely be struck to death. Boom! Boom! Another dense bolt of purple heavenly lightning struck down towards Yun Chujio. She curled her lips, a look of enjoyment on her face. Yes, she enjoyed being struck by lightning. Din Huangfu looked at the spirit potato in his hand with a dumbfounded expression, then looked at Yun Chujio, who had a look of enjoyment on her face, and then looked up at the lightning that kept striking her. He felt that the amount of shock he had received in his entire life could not compare to the last few moments. Oh God, what kind of monster did their Tianyuan Academy recruit? After an hour of repeated lightning strikes, Yun Chujio was still unharmed. 2 hours later, she flew out from the deep pit and changed places. 4 hours later, Yun Chujio still had a look of enjoyment on her face. 10 hours later, Din Huangfu's had been filled with multiple pits. Yun Chujio touched her nose and said, "Din, you have seen it too. This Wu Yun is not that strong. Why don't I change places next time? I don't think there is any space in your courtyard anymore." "Ah. Ha ha ha, do as you wish." Din Huangfu went from being initially shocked to being in disbelief to being shocked again. At that moment, he was utterly dumbfounded. The Wu Yun in the sky was even more dumbfounded than Din Huangfu. It was not the same Wu Yun in the flaming desert. At that moment, its morale had been completely crushed by Yun Chujiu. When did such a monster appear in the Tianyuan continent? How could it not be killed? How was this possible? It had already struck for 10 hours, how was she still alive and kicking? Could it be that it was not a real cloud created by heaven? Chapter 1067, Wu Yun venting its anger. The strange phenomenon in Dean Huangfu's courtyard attracted the attention of the entire Tianyuan Academy. Even the cultivators and demon beasts within a radius of several hundred li paid attention to it. Heavens, such dense heavenly lightning! Could it be that a rare treasure or a rare beast had appeared? That could not be right. Even if a rare treasure or a rare beast appeared, there would at most be a few heavenly lightning bolts. What the hell was that lightning bolt that had struck for more than 6 hours? Could it be that the Wu Yun had gone crazy? Some teachers and students were afraid of the might of the heavenly lightning and stood at a distance to observe. Only Deputy Dean Yin wanted to know what was going on in the courtyard. As he tried to make his way in, he did not expect to be stopped by Dean Huangfu's guards. Deputy Dean Yin, there is an order or prevent anyone from entering the courtyard. Not even you. Deputy Dean Yin snorted coldly and stood not far away to observe. That old fogey Huangfu Zhongheng must have some unspeakable secrets. Otherwise, why would he not allow anyone to enter in broad daylight? To be able to attract so much heavenly lightning, it must be something extraordinary. I must find a way to see what he was up to. Recently, he had lost a few helpers consecutively. It seemed that this old fogey Huangfu was going to make a move on him. He could not just sit around and await his death. He had to think of a way to bring him down. The more Deputy Dean Yin thought about it, the more frustrated he became. Thus, before he knew it, he had paced around outside the courtyard. At that moment, Yun Chujiu felt very comfortable in the deep pit. She replenished her spirit energy while also replenishing her body. She smiled as she chewed on a roasted chicken drumstick. On top of her head stood a black bird. It opened its possessed eyes wide and helped Yun Chujiu resist the lightning strikes. It had one short wing on his waist and the other pointed at the sky. Because he was afraid that Dean Huangfu would find out, this fellow could only use its body language to provoke the Wu Yun. The Wu Yun in the sky had nowhere to vent his frustration. Now that he saw an ugly bird daring to provoke him, he was so angry that lightning strike after lightning strike struck towards little black bird. Wu Yun looked down proudly. After these 10 lightning strikes, there would be nothing left of you. Humph. You dare to challenge me? I'll send you to your grave. Who would have thought that the ugly bird would arrogantly flap its 2 short wings and fly a small circle in the deep pit? Not only was it completely fine, but it was also even more lively than before. Wu Yun felt that he had suffered a critical hit of 10,000 points. Fuck, it was fine if that little devil could not be killed. Why could it not even kill this ugly bird? Could it be that its heavenly lightning was really just an inferior facsimile? To verify the power of the heavenly lightning, Wu Yun glanced down and saw a person pacing around outside the courtyard. It was annoyed to look at him, so he casually struck him with a heavenly lightning bolt. Deputy Dean Yin was thinking of countermeasures, but he did not expect to win the grand prize. A purple heavenly lightning bolt as thick as a child's arm flew towards him with all its heavenly might. Even in his dreams, Deputy Dean Yin did not expect the heavenly lightning to vent its anger on him. By the time he reacted, it was already too late. Fortunately, he had a defensive spirit weapon on him, which blocked the heavenly lightning. The Wu Yun in the sky saw that the heavenly lightning he had used could not hurt anyone, and became even more depressed. So, he threw another heavenly lightning bolt at Deputy Dean Yin. Deputy Dean Yin was completely stunned. In a moment of desperation, he had no choice but to use his defensive spirit tool to block the heavenly lightning bolt again. The second heavenly lightning bolt did not do much damage to him either. The Wu Yun in the sky grew even angrier this time. Damn it, I can't believe this. I can't kill that pervert or that ugly bird, and now I can't even hurt an old man. Boom! Boom! Bolts heavenly lightning after another struck down towards Deputy Dean Een. Chapter 1068, must have encountered a fake Wu Yun. Deputy Dean Een was so depressed that he was about to vomit blood. Who had he offended? He was just here to watch the show, and yet he was about to be struck by lightning. After 5 bolts of heavenly lightning, the defensive spiritual artifact on his body shattered, and he could only use his spiritual power to form a spiritual energy barrier to resist the heavenly lightning. The Wu Yun in the sky had already lost its mind due to its frustrations with Yun Chujiu and Little Black Bird. It was so focused on proving the power of the heavenly lightning that it threw even stronger lightning bolts. Although Deputy Dean Een's spiritual power was not low, he still could not withstand such a strike. 15 minutes later, Deputy Dean Een could not hold on any longer and spat out a mouthful of blood. The Wu Yun in the sky stopped striking when he saw that Wu Yun had spat out blood. He thought to himself, it seemed that its heavenly lightning was not the problem here. It was indeed that wretched girl who was too freakish. At that moment, Yun Chujiu had already eaten her fill. She lazily sat at the bottom of the deep pit and said to Wu Yun in the sky, "Are you still going to strike? If you are done, then get lost. I still have a lot of things to do." Although Dean Huangfu was already numb from Yun Chujiu's monstrous performance, he still staggered when he heard Yun Chujiu's words, "Little girl, what are you trying to do? You still dare to tell the heavenly lightning to get lost? You are too bold. The heavenly lightning must be furious. Aren't you asking for trouble?" Dean Huangfu was extremely worried when he realized that the Wu Yun in the sky had floated away. Gone. It was gone. Fuck. As a Wu Yun, could you still have some integrity? If I told you to scram, would you scram? Dean Huangfu felt that he must have encountered a fake Wu Yun. Yun Chujiu sat on the chopping board and flew out of the deep pit. She bared her little white teeth and said, "Dean, I'm really sorry for turning your courtyard into such a mess. That damn heavenly lightning only knows how to dig holes but doesn't know how to fill them. It's really lacking in quality. It's okay. I'll get someone to clean it up later." The corner of Dean Huangfu's eyes twitched. This little girl was the only one in the world who dared to openly scold the heavens. "Dean, as you can see, my constitution is a little special. The reason why I chose to be struck by lightning here is that I believe that you must have a way to help me hide it. The roasted spirit potato I had just now was a thank you gift," Yun Chujiu said with gratitude. Dean Huangfu was so angry that he wanted to kill her. "You forced me to help you hide it, and you want to give me a thank you gift? I am the dean of the Grand Tianyuan Academy. A roasted spirit potato is all I'm worth. Besides, you are definitely a troublemaker and a big one at that. I reckon that I will be struck by lightning in the future because of you. Not to mention anything else, his courtyard is going to suffer. Moreover, with such a huge commotion, how do you expect me to help you hide it? How can I hide it from everyone? Could it be that the heavenly lightning was blind and was just playing with her?" Seeing that Dean Huangfu was so angry that he blew into his beard and glared at her, Yun Chujiu said with a smile, "Dean, are you worried about how to explain it to others? It's very simple. Just tell them that the heavenly lightning was struck by me, and it will be done, won't it?" Dean Huangfu felt that Yun Chujiu was most likely struck dumb by the lightning. If you told others that the heavenly lightning struck you, what was the point of trying to hide it in the first place? Wasn't hiding everything unnecessary then? However, you have to polish it first. Just tell them that only 10 or so heavenly lightning bolts struck me. The rest of the heavenly lightning was just to scare me," Yun Chujiu said as she took out some demon beast blood from her storage ring. She wiped it on the corner of her mouth and on her clothes. It made her look so tragic that she looked like she was already half dead. Chapter 1069, Maybe he deserves to be struck by lightning? Dean Huangfu watched as Yun Chujio went from lively to half-dead in an instant. The corners of his eyes twitched violently. This little girl was too good at this. However, would the little girl's story stand up to scrutiny? The heavenly lightning had struck her with such fury there was no hiding it. Why would it scare people for fun? Who was she kidding? Yun Chujio saw through Dean Huangfu's thoughts. Then, she said, Dean, I know that there are many flaws in this story, but think about it. Who would believe that I won't die from being struck by the heavenly lightning? So, even if they have any doubts, they can only speculate. Besides, the heavenly lightning is so random. Didn't it strike some other target dozens of times outside the courtyard just now as well? Yun Chujio jumped to the door and peeked out through the gap of the courtyard door. She said mysteriously, Dean, come here quickly. Something good has happened. Dean Huangfu was shocked by Yun Chujio's abnormal behavior just now, so he really did not pay attention to the movements outside. When he heard Yun Chujio's words, he went over to take a look and saw that Deputy Dean Yin was meditating nearby. His hair had been burnt off and his clothes were also covered in blood. It was obvious that his injuries were substantial. TSK, that heavenly lightning did a good thing. This Deputy Dean Yin probably did too many wicked things. He deserved to be struck. Yun Chujio said gloatingly. Dean Huangfu coughed dryly. Little girl, let's continue the topic from before. Yun Chujio pursed her lips in her heart. That old fox might be secretly happy, but he still pretended not to be happy with me. Humph. Lord Dean, Deputy Dean Yin has been a great help to us after being struck by lightning. Initially, my story just now was not convincing enough, but now that Deputy Dean Yin had also been struck bald, it proves that the heavenly lightning was indeed mischievous. Otherwise, could it be that Deputy Dean Yin had done too many bad things and was struck for that reason instead? Ha ha ha. Dean Huangfu thought to himself, this little girl was most likely Yin Haoyu's nemesis. In just a month, she had already eliminated 3 of his trusted aides. Today, he was even implicated and struck by lightning. Meeting this little girl, it could only be said that Yin Haoyu was unlucky. The 2 of them had already come to a decision. Dean Huangfu removed the restriction in the courtyard. As the heavenly lightning had already stopped, many students and teachers had already gathered around the courtyard. They all eagerly waited for the courtyard door to open, wanting to know what went on inside. As the restriction lifted and the courtyard door opened, everyone finally saw the situation inside clearly. They saw that several deep pits had been created in the courtyard. A little girl was sitting cross-legged on the ground as she adjusted her breathing. The corners of her mouth and her clothes were covered in blood. It seemed that her injuries were heavy, yet Dean Huangfu was fine, but what was going on? Just as everyone was puzzled, Dean Huangfu opened his mouth and said, You all know that Yun Chujio has the heavenly thunder root spirit. The existence of a heavenly thunder root spirit has never been tolerated by Tian Dao. The lightning strikes this time were aimed at Yun Chujio. As soon as Dean Huangfu finished speaking, whispers sounded from below. It seems that there are pros and cons to this matter. I heard that the cultivation speed of the heavenly thunder root spirit is very fast, but it will eventually be wiped out by the Tian Dao. This Yun Chujio will definitely not be able to cultivate to the great Dao. You're missing the main point, okay? That heavenly lightning strike just now lasted for more than 10 hours. How is that Yun Chujio still alive and kicking? Yeah, could it be that she withstood the lightning for 10 hours? Are you talking nonsense? Deputy Dean Yin was only struck for 15 minutes and was already heavily injured. How could she have withstood the lightning for 10 hours? What you said makes sense. Then how did she survive? Chapter 1070, Experts in Acting. Dean Huangfu coughed and everyone quieted down. He braced himself and told Yun Chujio's excuse. This time, the heavenly lightning that struck Yun Chujio might be a bit jumpy. Actually, there were only a dozen or so heavenly lightning bolts that struck Yun Chujia's body. I helped bear a few of them, and the rest of the heavenly lightning bolts struck the empty ground. That's why there are so many deep pits. When everyone heard what Din Huangfu said, they were skeptical. How could a Wu Yun with the power of heavenly lightning do such a childish thing? It was too unbelievable. Din Huangfu glanced at Deputy Din Yin, who was still recuperating. He sighed and said, "As you all have seen, Deputy Din Yin was also struck by dozens of heavenly lightning bolts. Deputy Din Yin has always been a straightforward person, so how could he be punished by the heavens? Therefore, it can only mean that the heavenly lightning bolts this time are rather jumpy. It can be said that Yun Chujio managed to take advantage of it. Otherwise, she would definitely be in deep trouble." Deputy Din Yin could still hear Din Huangfu's words as he adjusted his breathing. Hearing words of praise weaved in with those of derision, he was so angry that he spat out another mouthful of blood. When the crowd heard Din Huangfu's words, they grew less skeptical. Moreover, if a strange treasure or a strange beast were to be born, the contract would definitely have an image of a contract. So, this heavenly lightning bolt was completely used to strike Yun Chujio. Some first-year students said, this heavenly lightning should have targeted Yun Chujius. We just finished our beast taming class, and Yun Chujio suddenly ran into the dean's courtyard as if she was being chased by a dog. She must have wanted the dean to help her resist the heavenly lightning. Right. I can also prove it. At that time, she said that she had something to do and ran away as if she was running for her life. Also, those demon beast eggs in the spirit beast park all went berserk. They must have sensed the arrival of the heavenly lightning. So it was all caused by this Yun Chujio. After the accounts of these students, everyone believed Din Huangfu's words. Although there were still some who had their doubts, the vast majority of them accepted Din Huangfu's words. Din Huangfu heaved a sigh of relief. It had to be said that Yun Chujius understood how to manipulate people's hearts. She had managed to muddle her way through such a big matter. Din Huangfu pointed at Feng Ming and the other two and said, "The three of you stay here. After Yun Chujio has recuperated, you are allowed to ride your swords to send Yun Chujio back to the dormitory." Feng Ming and the other two were also experts in acting. They knew that Yun Chujio was fine, but they still pretended to be very worried. Even Din Huangfu had been deceived, and he sighed in his heart. These three children were really kind-hearted. When everyone saw that there was nothing else, they all dispersed. Only Yin Xinlian and the other two, as well as some of Deputy Din Yin's trusted aides, stayed behind to take care of Deputy Din Yin. Din Huangfu said a few words of concern and went back to his study room. The door to the courtyard was left open just like that, in case others thought that something fishy went on inside. To prevent Deputy Din Yin from seeing right through her, Yun Chujio deliberately opened her eyes before Deputy Din Yin had finished regulating his breathing. She looked extremely weak and let Feng Ming and the other two ride their swords back to the dormitory. After they returned to the dormitory and activated an isolation array, Feng Ming asked, "Little sister Jiu, are you all right?" Yun Chujio giggled. "Of course I'm fine. That heavenly lightning struck me very comfortably, and it even helped me teach that old bastard, Deputy Din Yin, a lesson. It was so satisfying." The corners of Feng Ming and the other two's eyes twitched for a moment, and they finally relaxed. They thought to themselves that only a monster like junior sister Little Jiu could withstand repeated lightning strikes for 10 hours. Chapter 1071, Could it be that you just want a love letter from me? Deputy Din Yin had finished adjusting his breathing and touched his head with his hand. When he noticed the black ash on his hand, his face immediately turned pale. The Yin sisters and the instructors were so frightened that they did not even dare to breathe loudly. Although Deputy Din Yin had been distracted just now, he had heard Din Huangfu's words clearly. He did not believe that those heavenly lightning bolts would scare Yun Chujio for no reason. The Wu Yun must have been attracted by that smelly girl, Yun Chuzhou. He had suffered an undeserved calamity. That smelly girl was a jinx. Ever since she entered the Tianyuan Academy, he had experienced all sorts of difficulties. He had to think of a way to kill her, or it would be difficult to appease his anger. Deputy Dean Yin looked into Dean Huangfu's courtyard. Sure enough, there were a few deep pits. A few guards had filled up the pits with soil, but there was nothing unusual. That old man Huangfu Zhonghen was very cunning. He might have obtained some heaven-defying treasures. Humph. However, it was going to be his sooner or later. Let's wait and see. Yun Chuzhou sneezed twice and mumbled, "It must be that old bastard Deputy Dean Yin, badmouthing me." That heavenly lightning was also the same. If you wanted to strike him, just do it to your heart's content. Why didn't you strike him to death? She took a bath and started to cultivate. Strength was the most important principle. Without strength, everything else would be useless. While Yun Chuzhou cultivated, the sound transmission talisman in her storage ring started to vibrate. After Yun Chuzhou sent her spirit sense to probe into it, Di Baiming's anxious voice came from inside, "Little Jiu," and Feng said that Tianyuan Academy was struck by the heavenly lightning for more than 10 hours. Was it you? Are you alright? Yun Chuzhou giggled and said, "My Prince Charming, congratulations on getting the right answer. Those lightning bolts were there to strike me. I feel very comfortable now." On the other side of the transmission talisman, the corner of Di Baiming's eyes twitched. "It's good that you're all right. However, aren't you afraid that the lightning bolts expose you?" "I'm afraid that it will attract a lot of trouble." "Hee, my Prince Charming, you've underestimated me. How can I do such a stupid thing? I've already taken care of it." Yun Chuzhou told Di Baiming about what had happened. Since the two of them were now in the Tianyuan continent, the voice transmission talisman could be used more often. It was very convenient. The two of them chatted for a while more, then the voice transmission talisman turned into ash due to the number of times it was used. Yun Chuzhou pursed her lips. This thing was too useless. It was only used for a short while, but it already broke, so she took out a new voice transmission talisman and said to Di Baiming, "Prince Charming, ask Feng to send me another 180 voice transmission talismans. This thing's lifespan is too short." On the other side, Di Baiming sighed, "Little Jiu, these voice transmission talismans are not that easy to find. In the future, we should try to communicate as briefly as possible. If you have something to say, we can meet face to face. Or you can write me a letter and ask Feng to send someone to send it to me." Yun Chuzhou pouted, "HMPH. What a tsundere. Could it be that you just want a love letter from me?" However, she blinked her eyes and her face was beamed with joy. "If I were to write a letter to the pretty boy would also reply to me. I have never received a love letter from pretty boy before. Ah, I'm looking forward to it." Therefore, she hurriedly said a few words to Di Baiming. Then, she took out her brush and ink to write a love letter to Di Baiming. She had written all the love letters she could think of, then, she wrote the closing, "Little Jiu who loved you to the bone." She then put the love letter into her storage ring. She planned to give it to Feng in a few days and ask him to send someone to pass it to Di Baiming. Chapter 1072, Do You Dare to Compete with Me? To act more presentable, Yun Chuzhou asked for a sick day off and did not go to class. In the afternoon, the students from the Huang class all brought gifts to visit Yun Chuzhou. Yun Chuzhou, weakly, leaned on the recliner and pretended to decline the gifts before she accepted them anyway. When the Huang class students left, she immediately jumped down from the reclining chair and opened the gifts one by one. Feng Ming and the other two were already at their wits' end. Junior sister Little Jiu's acting skills were already at the pinnacle of perfection. If we did not know that she was completely fine, we would have thought that she was really half dead. TSK, I didn't expect this. I didn't expect that feigning illness was also a way to make a fortune. However, only those from the Huang class came to visit me. The number of gifts I received is really limited. I will have to think of a way to get everyone to visit me next time, especially the headmaster and instructors. The gifts they give will probably be more valuable. Yun Chujiu muttered as she opened the gifts. The corners of Feng Ming and the other two's eyes twitched violently. There was no one else who was that greedy. After 3 days of recuperation, Yun Chujiu was once again alive and kicking. Yun Chujiu was escorted to the classroom by the students of the Huang class. On the way, she met Yin Sulian and the others. Yun Chujiu, you jinx. It's all because of you that my fourth grandfather was struck by lightning. You even caused the dean's courtyard to be destroyed. You still have the gall to stay in Tianyuan Academy? If I were you, I would have quit long ago. Yin Sulian said disdainfully. Get lost. If you were me. Why are you so shameless? Could it be you wish to be like me? With your pig brain, unless you become a person with unparalleled wisdom like me, you'll be an idiot for the rest of your life. You want to compete with me in words? I'll torture you to death. I'll torture you to the point that you won't be able to take care of yourself. Yin Sulian had never met someone who spoke so sarcastically before. She was so angry that she almost fainted. She gritted her teeth and said, Yun Chujiu. I won't argue with you. If you can, let's compete in the materialization of spiritual power. Do you dare to? I bet you don't. Trash like you and that useless instructor can't possibly learn the materialization of spiritual power without wasting at least a year. Compete in the materialization of spiritual power, huh? How do you want to do this? Yun Chujiu asked lightly. Humph. It's very simple. It's a competition of whose spiritual power after materialization was stronger. 3 days later, we would use the materialization of spiritual power to attack the training spirit stones. Whoever's result is better will win. The loser has to kneel on the ground and admit their mistake in front of everyone, then pay the winner 2 million upper-grade spirit stones. Do you dare compete with me? Yin Sulian was full of confidence. She felt that Yun Chujiu would not dare to accept the challenge. She had already learned how to materialize spirit energy even before she joined the academy. Now, she could already condense her spirit energy into a sword. Moreover, the Huang class progress had been delayed by instructor Zhou for more than 20 days. They probably had not even learned the basics, let alone learn how to condense spirit energy into a tangible object. Feng Ming whispered from the side, Junior sister Little Jiu, don't pay attention to her. She's just a clown. The Huang class students also said, Class monitor, there's no need to argue with her. Let's go, it's almost time for class. That's right, class monitor, let's go. Ignore her. Whether it was Feng Ming and the other two or the Huang class students, they all felt that they could not agree with Yin Sulian's challenge. If they did, they would lose without a doubt. Although ever since instructor Ji Sha took over, the Huang class students felt that the spiritual power class was much easier to understand. However, it would still take at least another 2 to 3 months before they could materialize their spiritual power. Moreover, it was said that Yin Sulian herself had learned the materialization of spiritual power with her family before she joined the academy. Yun Chujiu would lose without a doubt against such an opponent. Chapter 1073, The class monitor will definitely lose this time. Yin Sulian heard everyone say so, and Yun Chujiu remained silent the entire time. She said proudly, Yun Chujiu, are you afraid? Humph. That's right, trash like you obviously can't compare to me. If that's the case, if you meet me in the future, just get lost. What right does a piece of trash have to talk to me? What Yin Sulian did not expect was that Yun Chujiu said indifferently, where will the competition be held? Junior sister Little Jiu. Class monitor. Feng Ming and the other two and the Huang class members looked at Yun Chuzhou in disbelief. The outcome of this competition was almost predictable. Why did Yun Chuzhou agree to it? Was this not asking for trouble? Yin Sulian was also stunned. She thought that Yun Chuzhou would not dare to agree to her challenge. She thought that in the future, she would be able to use this to mock her, but the tables had turned. She did not expect that Yun Chuzhou would agree to it so recklessly. She really courted death. Since it's a competition, the more people there are to witness it, the better. Let's do it at the Tianyuan Academy's main square. Yin Sulian's eyes flashed with a trace of viciousness. When the time came, she would make Yun Chuzhou kneel and apologize to her in front of everyone. She wanted to see if Yun Chuzhou still dared to stay in Tianyuan Academy in the future after she was defeated. All right. I will see you there in 3 days. Yun Chuzhou said calmly. Yun Chuzhou, you should cherish these 3 days. Your good fortune will come to an end soon. At that time, you will be the #1 trash in the Tianyuan Academy. To prevent you from not admitting your loss, let's swear on the inner demon oath. If the losing party does not honor the agreement, then their souls will be scattered and they will die a horrible death. Yin Sulian said viciously. Yun Chuzhou smiled faintly and made the inner demon oath according to Yin Sulian's words. Yin Sulian also made the inner demon oath and then left with her class leader, Yang. Junior sister Little Jiu, you are too impulsive. That Yin Sulian learned the materialization of spiritual power when she was in the family. We have only learned it for less than a month, how can we beat her? Feng Ming said worriedly. Yes, class monitor. It's not that we want to admit defeat, but right now it's like hitting a rock with an egg when you compete with Yin Sulian in the materialization of spiritual power. This. Sigh, the words have already been said. What should we do now? Class monitor, why don't we go back on our words? It's better than kneeling and admitting our mistakes in the future. Class monitor, why don't you pretend to be sick when the time comes? Drag it out for as many days as you can. Yun Chuzhou smiled faintly. Don't worry. Since I dared to make the promise to her, I naturally have a way to defeat her. When everyone heard Yun Chuzhou's words, they immediately asked in surprise, Class monitor, could it be that you can already materialize your spiritual power? Yun Chuzhou shook her head. Not yet. I should be able to do it in 3 days. Everyone. What kind of joke was that? Not now, but in 3 days. Do you think the materialization of spiritual power is a joke? It's over. The class monitor will definitely lose this time. When the time comes, she will kneel in front of everyone and apologize to Yin Sulian. In the future, she will not be able to raise her head in Tianyuan Academy. She was too impulsive. After Instructor Ji Sha received the news, he specially asked Yun Chuzhou to stay back after the spiritual power class. With a slightly gloomy expression, he said, Yun Chuzhou, I always thought that you were quite smart. Why are you so reckless this time? That Yin Sulian can already materialize a treasure sword. What about you? Our Huang class will still need at least another 2 months of lessons before we can materialize anything. Aren't you just asking for trouble? Forget it. I'll go find Mo Hanshuan and ask him to find Yin Sulian to cancel the competition. Yun Chuzhou felt a warmth in her heart. She naturally knew what Ji Sha would face if he went to look for Mo Hanshuan. He would definitely be further ridiculed and despised by Mo Hanshuan. However, he still decided to do so. That meant that he was truly considerate of her situation. Chapter 1074, Arrogance That Knows No Bounds. Instructor Ji Sha, although I don't know how to materialize my spiritual power yet, it doesn't mean that I won't know how to do it 3 days later. Please give me some special lessons. Use the time that I don't have classes for the next few days to teach me the rest of the lessons. Yun Chuzhou said with a smile. Instructor Ji Sha was so angry that he almost fainted. Although this little girl had many good points, her arrogance made people want to slap her to death. From what she had just said, she wanted to finish 2 months' worth of lessons in 3 days. How was it possible? The more Instructor Ji Sha thought about it, the angrier he became. Nonsense. Do you think that materializing spiritual power is easy? Can you master it in just 3 days? Besides, the sword materialized by Yin Sulian is already quite solid. Even if you can learn to materialize your spiritual power, the object materialized will not be very solid. How can the attack power compare to the sword materialized by her? Ji Sha, nothing is absolute. Let me try first. If it doesn't work, I have a way to make that little bitch cancel the competition. Yun Chujio took out the isolation disc and said slyly after she activated it. Little bitch. The corner of Ji Sha's eyes twitched violently, and he asked in puzzlement, what do you have in mind? You don't have to think about that. You're better off spending the time teaching me more about the materialization of spiritual power. Yun Chujio said with a smile. Seeing that Yun Chujio had not wanted to say more, Instructor Ji Sha did not press her for more information. He sighed and said, well, since you've made up your mind, I'll simplify the remaining lessons and teach them to you. Therefore, Ji Sha found an empty classroom and simplified the rest of the spiritual power lessons. Then, he began to teach Yun Chujio. According to the normal curriculum, the 2 months to learn the materialization of spiritual also included the time needed for the students to practice, and it included having lessons each other day provided the class did not slow down. The most important thing was that this little devil Yun Chujio could remember it after she listened to it once. There was no need for Instructor Ji Sha to repeat himself. She only needed to hear it once. Occasionally, she would ask some questions about matters that she did not understand. The more Instructor Ji Sha taught, the more shocked he became. Initially, he only thought that this Yun Chujio only had many ideas and was bold. He did not expect that her comprehension ability was so strong. If it were an ordinary student, they would only be able to hold on for 4 hours at most. They would not stay focused for such a long time. The most perverse thing was that she understood everything and had still fully paid attention the whole time. The few questions that were occasionally asked were also questions about her own opinions. It was not that they did not understand the content of the lecture. Could it be that even the heavenly thunder root spirit was so perverse? The sky gradually turned dark. Although Yun Chujio could still go on, when she heard that Instructor Ji Sha's voice had already started to become hoarse, she took the initiative to say, Instructor Ji Sha, let's call it a day. I'll go back and understand and digest everything you taught me today. Tomorrow morning, I'll take a leave of absence from the beast taming class. You continue to teach me. I reckon that after tomorrow afternoon's lesson, things will be more or less explained clearly. Instructor Ji Sha was indeed a little tired. He nodded and said, I'll go and inform Instructor Qian. Well, continue the class here in the morning tomorrow. On the way back to the dormitory, Little Black Bird asked curiously, Master, if you can't learn how to materialize spiritual power by then, how are you going to deal with that bitch Yin Sulian? Yun Chujio said faintly, it's very simple. Use the concealment talisman to beat her up. Beat her up until she can't get out of bed for 10 days to half a month. The competition will naturally be unable to proceed. Little Black Bird's beaks were unable to close for some time. Chapter 1075, The Unfortunate Tables and Chairs. The 3 animals in the spirit beast pouch looked at each other and shivered. All right, that was indeed in line with their black-hearted master's way of doing things. That little bitch should just pray for her own good fortune. The next day, Yun Chujio did not attend the beast taming class as expected. It was an elective class anyway, so Instructor Qian turned a blind eye to it. After receiving the news from Instructor Ji Sha, he happily approved the request. Moreover, he had also heard about the bet between Yun Chujio and Yin Sulian. He was very curious about how Yun Chujio would accept the challenge. Could it be that she could really learn the materialization of spiritual power within 3 days? When it was close to noon, Instructor Ji Sha finished the rest of the lessons. He then sighed and said, I have already taught the most basic low-level materialization of spiritual power. Only by mastering the basics can you master the more advanced methods. Now, try to materialize the spiritual power in your body and see if you succeed. Although Instructor Ji Sha said so, he did not have much hope in his heart. Materialization of spiritual power was not something that could be done in a day. It had to be practiced thousands of times before it could be done. After all, there were still 2 days left. It was impossible for Yun Chujio to master the materialization of spiritual power, let alone defeat Yin Sulian. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and tried to materialize the spiritual power in her body according to what Instructor Ji Sha had taught her. Unfortunately, what she ended up doing was still fire purple lightning bolts. Kacha! Kacha! Several sets of tables and chairs in the classroom were charred. The corner of Instructor Ji Sha's eyes twitched violently. This time, not only did she not learn how to materialize spiritual power, but she also had to compensate for the expenses of the school's tables and chairs. Yun Chujio laughed dryly. Instructor Ji Sha, I'd better return to my own courtyard to practice. Here are 500 upper-grade spirit stones. Please help me pass this to the Miscellaneous Affairs Department as compensation. Instructor Ji Sha sighed again. If you still can't succeed tomorrow night, send me a message. I'll go look for Mo Hanshuan, don't try to be brave. Instructor Ji Sha, don't worry. I'll definitely succeed. Yun Chujio said confidently, adding in her heart, even if I don't succeed, I'll have Yin Sulian cancel the competition on her own initiative. Instructor Ji Sha waved his hand, thinking about how to tell Mo Hanshuan to make him agree to let Yin Sulian give up on the competition. If it did not work out, he could only use that item to exchange for it. Yun Chujio thought about the reason for her failure as she walked towards the dormitory. Suddenly, a mocking voice sounded, Yo, Yun Chujio, you didn't go to the beast taming class. Could it be that you are hiding to practice the materialization of spiritual power? TSK, it's not that I want to look down on you. Even His Excellency and young Master Wuji could not learn the materialization of spiritual power within 3 days, let alone a good-for-nothing like you. You better get ready to kowtow and admit defeat. The one who spoke was Yin Sulian. She did not see Yun Chujio during the beast taming class today, so she immediately guessed that Yun Chujio must have seized the time to practice her materialization of spiritual power. Yun Chujio glanced at her. If I can't learn it, we'll find out tomorrow afternoon. At that time, the person who will kneel and confess will definitely be you. After saying that, Yun Chujio left. Yin Sulian looked at Yun Chujio's back and curled her lips. Still so stubborn. Let's wait and see. Not long after Yun Chujio walked out, Feng Ming and the other two rushed over. Junior sister Little Jiu, how is it? Have you learned how to materialize your spiritual power? Yun Chujio shook her head. There's no rush. There are still nearly 2 days left. I will definitely be able to learn it. Chapter 1076, Di Biming's reminder. Feng Ming and the other two were speechless. It's already so late, why aren't you in a hurry? Besides, where did your confidence come from? There are less than 2 days left, can you really learn to materialize spiritual power? Moreover, even if you manage to learn it, can its power compare to Yin Sulian's? Feng Ming and the other two were extremely worried, but they also knew that Yun Chujio had a plan, so they could only give her a little encouragement. When Yun Chujio had returned to the dormitory, the three of them gathered to discuss a solution. What should we do? Junior sister Little Jiu is going to lose this time. If that happens, the lost spirit stones will be easy to deal with, but kneeling and admitting her mistake on the spot is too difficult to accept. Feng Ming said with a worried expression. Shi Xian sighed. Yes, if junior sister little Jiu does that, then she won't be able to stand firm in the Tianyuan Academy in the future. Fuck. If we lose, well, quit school. We can't let junior sister little Jiu suffer such humiliation. Gung Yi said through gritted teeth. Shi Xian thought for a moment then said, why don't we go to instructor Ji Sha? Maybe he'll think of a way out of this. Feng Ming and Gung Yi did not have any other good ideas, so they could only agree with Shi Xian's opinion. The three of them went to instructor Ji Sha and explained the purpose of their visit. Ji Sha smiled bitterly. I've already spoken to Yun Chuzhou. If she can't succeed in her practice before dinner tomorrow, he'll go to Mo Hanshuan and ask him to think of a way to get Yin Sulian to cancel the competition. The three heard Ji Sha's words and felt a little more at ease. However, there was still a glimmer of hope in their hearts. Junior sister little Jiu had created miracles many times. Perhaps she could do it this time as well. If that was the case, they could only hope for the best. At that moment, Yun Chuzhou had hacked her courtyard into a mess. The principle and steps of materializing spiritual power were not wrong, so why did it not succeed? What exactly was the problem? Yun Chuzhou sat on the reclining chair dejectedly. She turned her grief and anger into an appetite, she munched on a roast chicken and then got up to continue her practice. Although she was a little out of tune, she was so serious that even she was afraid of herself. She had practiced non-stop for the entire night. Unfortunately, when the sun rose again, Yun Chuzhou was still unable to materialize her spiritual power. What she came out of her palms was still purple lightning. Yun Chuzhou touched her chin. Could it be that she had no choice but to beat up that little bitch, Yin Sulian? It was indeed a low-level plan. If things went wrong, she would be discovered by others. When that happened, it would be even more troublesome. She could only use it as a last resort. However, why could she still not materialize her spiritual power? Yun Chuzhou had no other choice, so she sent the voice transmission talisman to Di Biming. However, this fellow didn't have much hope. Yun Chuzhou took out her voice transmission talisman and said, Prince Charming, I've practiced materializing my spiritual power hundreds of times but I still haven't succeeded. Can you help me analyze what exactly I did wrong? Not long after, the voice transmission talisman started to tremble. Materialization of spiritual power can't be rushed. Didn't you just learn it for a month? You'll succeed if you practice slowly. Yun Chuzhou curled her lips. I knew it. It's useless to ask the pretty boy. It seems that she had no choice but to use the concealment talisman to beat up that little bitch Yin Sulian. At that moment, the sound transmission talisman trembled again. Little Jiu, did you get into trouble again? If you are anxious to learn the materialization of spiritual power, you can refer to your situation in the water. Although those purple lightning bolts didn't form a physical body in the water, they already have a shallow spiritual intelligence. That is a characteristic of high-level spiritual power materialization techniques. Chapter 1077, A Flash of Inspiration. Dear Prince Charming, thank you. Don't worry, I won't cause any trouble. I love you, moi. Yun Chuzhou suddenly had a flash of inspiration. After hurriedly sending a message to Di Biming, she began to recall the situation in the sea. The pretty boy was right. When she was in the sea, the lightning that she used could not only turn around but also disguise itself. It already had the characteristics of a high-level physical transformation spell, but why could it still not be used on land? Yun Chuzhou thought for a long time but still could not come up with a solution. She made a big bathtub and then used her lightning inside. She then took out her hand and fired a bolt in the open air, carefully comparing the difference between the two. After a few experiments, Yun Chuzhou discovered the difference between the two. The water element in the sea was much denser than in the air. Lightning and rain had always complemented each other. Only with the help of the water element did her purple lightning have such a perverse performance. Yun Chujio let the 3 silly munchkins splash some water up in the air to simulate a rainy day to test her theory. Unfortunately, it still did not work. It seemed that it needed an environment rich in the water element to work. Then, the problem came. She could not possibly have a competition with Yin Sulian in the sea, right? Furthermore, although the lightning had the characteristics of a high-level materialization spell, it still appeared like regular lightning. Yin Sulian probably would not admit that it was a form of spirit power materialization. Yun Chujio's mind was once again stuck in an endless loop, but time passed quickly. It was almost dinner time. If she still could not succeed, Instructor Ji Sha would have to prostrate himself before Mo Hanchuan. The 3 silly munchkins saw that Yun Chujio had been frowning. Those 3 did not dare to play around, afraid that they would anger Yun Chujio, so they could only hide in a corner and eat secretly. Little Black Bird had learned to create his own storage space, and he would fill it with food from time to time. He was hungry since he did not eat at noon, so he took out a roasted snow rabbit, and the 3 of them ate it together. "Boss, how can this snow rabbit be enough for all 3 of us?" The flaming 3-tailed fox king said pitifully. Of the 3 of them, it was the most bullied, and the only one that was given to it was the snow rabbit's head. "Idiot! If 1 is not enough, won't you eat 2? If 2 are not enough, won't you end up eating 3? Little Black Bird said with a domineering air. Yun Chujio, who had thought hard, suddenly had a flash of inspiration when she heard Little Black Bird's words. However, she could not remember it clearly, so she went to ask him to repeat it. Yun Chujio jumped in front of the 3 silly munchkins and said with her eyes wide open, "What did you say just now? Say it again." The 3 silly munchkins were so scared that they almost choked on the rabbit meat in their mouths. Little Black Bird said timidly, "Master, we were really hungry, that's why we stole the food. Please don't be angry." Little Black Rat and Little Red also said, "Yes, Master, we didn't eat lunch, that's why we stole the food. We won't do it again." It was not that these 3 silly munchkins were usually timid, but they were really scared by Yun Chujio. If that black-hearted master rolled her eyes and came up with a bad idea, we won't be able to beat her. I'm not blaming you for stealing food. Quickly repeat what you just said. I seem to have found an inspiration. Yun Chujio touched her nose and thought to herself, am I that scary? The 3 silly munchkins finally felt relieved and replayed the scene from before. Yun Chujio clapped her hands. Yes. That's what Little Black Bird said. 1 is not enough to eat 2. The reason why the lightning that I struck can only be materialized with the help of the water element must be because my spiritual power isn't high enough. If I reduce the size of the lightning every time I use my spiritual power and increase the density, I will definitely be able to materialize successfully. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.